Ladies and gentlemen, good morning all. To start our day, we have a major agenda item to examine, namely item 7 on the state of conservation of World Heritage properties. As we have seen yesterday morning, with the adoption of the Istanbul Declaration, the World Heritage Convention is one of the most successful international instruments for the conservation of natural and cultural heritage sites. Its unique reactive monitoring process highly contributes to the efficient monitoring of threats affecting the properties and to their mitigation. As indicated in the preamble of the Convention itself, the deterioration or disappearance of any item of the cultural or natural heritage constitutes a harmful impoverishment of the heritage of all the nations of the world. Therefore, before we move on with this item and the following ones on the state of conservation reports of specific World Heritage properties, I call on you to make the best use of our procedures and of the recommendations formulated by the Secretariat and the advisory bodies to ensure that outstanding universal value of these heritage sites is fully preserved. I am convinced that by working together on these conservation issues, our decisions will be a source of inspiration for many people around the world and will contribute to encourage good practices in heritage protection. Dear colleagues, before I give the floor to Mrs. Mehdit Rösler, Director of the World Heritage Center, to introduce document WHC/16/40.com/7, I would like to inform you that as last year in Bonn, it is suggested that this item remains open to possibly take into account the debates held under agenda item 7A and 7B. The draft decision 40.7 will therefore be adopted once we have completed the examination of item 7A and 7B. Before giving the floor to Madame Rösler, I would like to announce that as from today until 17th of July, we will benefit from Spanish and Arabic interpretation at plenary sessions. I give the floor to Madame Rösler.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and with your permission, I just brief you about the results of the Bureau meeting also in relation to the overall item 7, because we have an additional 4 SOC reports which were requested to be opened so that you are aware of it. It's Vienna in Austria, opened by Lebanon, Venice, Italy, opened by Lebanon, the ancient Tauric city of Cherkonese, opened by Poland, Kiev, opened by Azerbaijan. That meant we had for item 7A, 26 open, and item 7B, 30 open, which means that you have only 20 minutes by each SOC report at the current count. In addition, at the Bureau this morning, Lebanon opened the Iguazu National Park, Brazil, and also all the sites in Libya. Today we will issue a new document which is in FREV 2, where all these sites which are open for discussion are integrated. So anything more opened we need to know by now, because otherwise we cannot issue the document. So Madam Chair, with your permission, we go now to item 7, which is in front of you, document 7, and this document contains 3 main parts. In its part 2 and 3, document 7 provides a snapshot on the factors impacting the OUV, next slide please, of properties either globally or per category of heritage. You can clearly see the prominent threats posed by the lack of management plans or the inadequacy by ill-advised major housing or transport-related development projects, illegal activities, extractive industries, and of course by situations of war and civil unrest in various parts of the world. In part 2 of this document, a more comprehensive information is provided on specific conservation issues, such as emergency situations in conflict areas, and indeed in 2016 conflict affected 18% of all properties reported to the committee. This is the highest percentage ever in the history of the convention. In addition to updates on the situation in Afghanistan, in Mali, Nigeria, Central African Republic, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, this document also provides an insight on the conflicts in Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and Libya, and on UNESCO's action to advocate for the international community to mobilize for the protection of endangered cultural sites in that region. I would also like to address the other conservation issues we presented in part 3 of this comprehensive document. Next slide, please. The recent substantive destructions of heritage all around the world have brought the question of reconstruction sharply into focus. It has become very clear that there's a need for further reflection in this regard. As you all know, in your operational guidelines, paragraph 86, reconstruction is not allowed in terms of this convention, and any processes should be undertaken within the framework of the outstanding universal value of the property. More reflection is needed on this issue, together potentially with new guidance to reflect the multifaceted changes that rebuilding or reconstruction brings, its social and economic context, and the short and long-term needs of properties. Next slide, please. Document 7 also addresses climate change, which was mentioned yesterday by some delegations, and presents a follow-up to the very successful COP21 conference and events. As you can see on the screens, during a special day we organized on UNESCO designated sites, such as World Heritage Biosphere Reserves or Global Geoparks, the UNESCO Pavilion received the visit of the President of the Republic of Kiribati, who made a very strong presentation on the difficult situation faced by his country. Particularly relevant to the World Heritage Convention is the implicit recognition in Article 7.5 of the Paris Agreement of the importance of heritage in ensuring that adaptation action should be based on and guided by the best practice, the best available science, and as appropriate traditional knowledge, knowledge of indigenous peoples, and local knowledge systems. In light of this agreement, it should be desirable that the World Heritage Policy document on climate change adopted in 2007 may be reviewed. For your information, UNESCO is also in the process of revising its strategy for action on climate change to accommodate the outcomes of the Paris Agreement and the 2030 Agenda. And a reflection has also been initiated on producing information to quantify the loss and damage to cultural heritage through climate change for the next assessment report of the IPCC. Next slide, please. Dams and extractive industries also continue to represent an increasing threat to World Heritage sites. Dams lead to a wide range of negative impacts, both direct and indirect, which should be rigorously and systematically assessed. As for the threat due to extractive industries, I am pleased to inform you that Tullow Oil in November 2015 and Cemex in April 2016 are the two latest industry leaders to have joined the no-go commitment not to explore or to exploit hydrocarbon resources within World Heritage designated areas. Furthermore, as you can see on the screen, during the 4th Global Forum on Responsible Business Conduct held at OECD in June, a special meeting was convened on protecting World Heritage sites and the role of the OECD guidelines, and it was attended by the chair of the Working Party on Responsible Business Conduct, His Excellency the Ambassador of Finland, who is here present in the room, as well as representatives of Tullow Oil, JP Morgan, and WWF International, and myself. Next slide. This year, again, a significant number of SOC reports note the need for state parties to undertake environmental and heritage impact assessments on the impacts on the OUV of proposed developments, proposed legal instruments, or new management systems. Such assessments have to be seen first and foremost as a tool to support decision-making by relevant authorities and not in an end to itself. And I would like to inform you that we have a side event because I have the feeling that many state parties need to have more guidance on these assessments. Next slide, please. As you know, a number of properties where different authorities are involved are also reported to be facing challenges due to management coordination and decision-making processes. So this is also in our document. And next slide, please. The State of Conservation report presented to you in 2016 show that 19% of all properties reported, both natural and cultural, are negatively impacted by the construction of ground transportation and infrastructure such as roadways, railway lines, or metro stations. These infrastructure have many potential impacts on the OUV of properties, and this is really crucial when planning of such project begins, that all potential issues and threats be identified as early as possible. Finally, document 7 proposes explanatory notes on how reactive monitoring missions should be organized, as well as the desired state of conservation for the removal of properties from the list of World Heritage in danger, as this crucial document is not always very well understood by all parties involved in the management of the properties. So thank you very much, Madam Chair, and you have in front of you decision COM 7. Thank you.
Many thanks, Madam Rösler. I would like to give the floor now to the representatives of the advisory bodies for additional statements on this item. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The committee will be aware of the ongoing coral bleaching event that has already severely impacted the Great Barrier Reef. However, this event could affect many more marine World Heritage sites. This situation highlights that climate change is happening now, and action should be urgently taken to improve the resilience of natural systems and people to climate change events. Recalling that the 2014 IUCN World Heritage Outlook Report identified climate change as the most serious potential threat to World Heritage properties, the advisory bodies note the importance and relevance of the Paris Agreement, adopted by the 21st Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and the new policy on sustainable development adopted in November 2015 by the General Assembly of this convention, which emphasizes the role that World Heritage should play in strengthening the ability of communities to adapt to climate change. IUCN notes with concern that amongst threats from industrial activities, an increasing number of natural properties continue to face potential threats from major dam projects. Recognizing in particular the potential for negative downstream impacts from dams, IUCN has over the past 4 years continually engaged with a variety of stakeholders, including the International Hydropower Association, the Nature Conservancy, and WWF, to develop strategies to improve the sustainability of hydropower. 2 of the natural properties that will be examined by the committee this year are recommended for inscription on the list of World Heritage in danger, either fully or in part, due to the impacts from ongoing dam developments. IUCN highlights the need for rigorous assessment of potential impacts from dams on the outstanding universal value of World Heritage properties located upstream or downstream within the same river basin. ICROM and ICOMOS share the same concerns as IUCN, reinforcing that large-scale infrastructure projects continue to threaten the OUV of both natural and cultural World Heritage properties. Accordingly, draft decision 40COM 7 invites the committee to consider adopting a position similar to its position on extractive industries, that the construction of dams within the boundaries of World Heritage properties is incompatible with their World Heritage status. The advisory bodies further wish to emphasize that environmental impact assessments and heritage impact assessments should be undertaken not only for projects with likely direct impacts on OUV, but also for projects that could have indirect or cumulative impacts on OUV, including those that are located outside the boundaries of World Heritage properties, sometimes at great distance or in neighboring countries. In order to streamline their advice, the advisory bodies note their preparedness to develop, subject to the availability of resources, one single guidance document on the assessment of impacts on OUV of both natural and cultural properties. In this context, in 2015, ICOMOS has undertaken an analysis of World Heritage Committee recommendations to develop heritage impact assessments as expressed in official decisions, and a preliminary review of the implementation of the ICOMOS guidance for heritage impact assessment to identify ways to strengthen it, and with a view to developing an updated guidance document on the use of the HIA instrument. In addition, IUCN's Environmental Law Center in Bonn has expressed its interest to undertake a review, also subject to the availability of resources, to identify where and how the requirements of the Convention can be integrated into existing legal frameworks. Finally, the advisory bodies recommend that the committee encourage states parties to develop mechanisms to ensure consideration of impacts on OUV in the decision-making processes of relevant ministries before permits or planning permissions are issued for developments that could negatively impact on the OUV of World Heritage properties. Madam Chair, ICOMOS wishes to make an additional intervention on behalf of both ICOMOS and ICROM. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to the representative of ICOMOS. You have the floor, Madam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. ICOMOS and ICROM would I'd like to add to what Mechthild Droster has also already said on one of the conservation issues highlighted in the report, and that is on the challenges of reconstruction that have been brought sharply into focus in many of this year's State of Conservation reports in response to the unprecedented damage and destruction of properties by both military actions and also natural disasters. Reconstruction work has already been undertaken in Timbuktu and Sukkur, and planning is beginning for properties in Syria and Nepal, and possibilities are also being considered in Afghanistan. Reconstruction is a complex challenge wherever it is considered in relation to cultural heritage, but particularly for World Heritage properties, in relation to sites with extensive areas that support thriving communities, and where outstanding universal value goes far beyond the fabric of buildings and monuments to encompass processes linking people to places or to historical, social, or spiritual associations. Reconstruction is not a new topic for the World Heritage Committee, and over the years, many projects have been discussed. During the past year, due to the extraordinary current circumstances, there have been several meetings organized on this topic by the World Heritage Center, ICOMOS, and ICROM, and these are set out in document 7. These and other national meetings are beginning to highlight the need to see reconstruction not as a single concept, but as a multifaceted process that goes far beyond the idea of reconstructing fabric, and one that poses complex theoretical, ideological, and socioeconomic questions, and one that brings potential conflicting expectations and may lead to many different outcomes. And what is also emerging is globally changing attitudes to how reconstruction is defined and put into practice. All this brings the need to consider how reconstruction within World Heritage properties should be approached and how guidance might be developed. The draft decision for ORTICOM 7 therefore recommends that the committee consider supporting the drafting of new guidance to reflect these multifaceted challenges that reconstruction brings: the social and economic context, the short and long-term needs of properties, and the idea of reconstruction as a process that should be undertaken with the framework of the OUV of the properties. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I thank the representatives of the advisory bodies for their presentation. Now, the floor is open for your comments and observations. Representative of Finland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Finland would want to thank the World Heritage Center for this. Okay, sorry. Is it better? Problems. I'm sorry, I can't speak. Okay, better this way? I'm sorry. Finland would like to thank the World Heritage Center for this useful report with its excellent overview of the reactive monitoring process and its difficulties. In addition, the report gives us an insight of the threats facing the World Heritage sites. We would like to highlight 3 issues. Firstly, we note while natural properties represent only 19% of the World Heritage List, they account for nearly 40% of the properties inscribed on the list of World Heritage in danger. Moreover, 1/3 of all properties are subject to the reactive monitoring process. This proportionally much higher threat towards natural World Heritage sites should call for increased action by UNESCO and by the World Heritage Center. It should, for instance, be reflected in the number of natural heritage experts at the Secretariat. Secondly, we would like to point out that biodiversity and healthy ecosystems are crucial for mitigating negative impacts from major threats, such as climate change. Natural heritage sites are important havens for biodiversity, but an increasing number of species are endangered. We need to do our utmost to maintain, restore, and enhance the biodiversity at our sites. In the long term, the sustainable use of natural resources will boost ecosystem resilience and generate well-being and economic benefits for local communities. Thirdly, it is alarming that so many World Heritage sites have problems related to management, and the trend has been increasing in recent years. Management, as we all know, is a central part of OUV, and properties should not be inscribed on the World Heritage List without an adequate management system in place. Fortunately, there are also good signs. For example, the co-management agreement for Salonga National Park between WWF and the Congolese Institute for Nature Conservation is highly welcomed. The cooperation with NGOs in managing World Heritage sites needs to be facilitated because it can provide more knowledge and improve the commitment of local and international communities in the conservation work. Finally, Finland would like to emphasize that even though management plans are useful, it is much more important that the properties have a management system in place that is capable of implementing sustainable actions that will restore and safeguard the OUV. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Now I give the floor to the representative of Peru. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. Como es la primera vez que mi delegación hace uso de la palabra, en primer lugar quiero felicitarla por su elección y a través suyo expresar nuestro mayor reconocimiento al gobierno de Turquía por ser sede de esta reunión, por todas las facilidades que nos brinda y por la manera como ha enfocado el desarrollo de esta 40ª sesión del Comité del Patrimonio Mundial. Sin duda, la sede de Estambul quedará registrada en la historia, en la mejor historia de nuestro comité. He escuchado con mucho interés la presentación de la señora Rosler y también la intervención de la delegación de Finlandia. Quisiera expresar que evidentemente las cuestiones relativas a los efectos negativos que una aplicación de las industrias extractivas sin enfoques de desarrollo sostenible, así como por ejemplo las de construcción en materia de transportes, presentan problemas y desafíos a la gestión y a la preservación del valor universal excepcional de los bienes inscritos en la lista. He tomado nota también de la expresión de la delegación de Finlandia respecto de la conveniencia de asociar a las ONGs como un valor agregado en los procesos de gestión. Todo esto nos lleva a prestar atención a las disposiciones 39 y 40 de las directrices operativas relativas a los actores asociados al proceso de preservación y de gestión. Es decir, el papel que los actores no estatales pueden desarrollar concurriendo a estrategias participativas de gestión y de preservación. Por esa razón, durante la reunión de la Asamblea de los Estados Parte, la delegación del Perú presentó la idea de propiciar la adopción de una declaración de principios de ética para la protección y la preservación del patrimonio mundial cultural y natural. En esta oportunidad, señora Presidenta, hemos presentado un proyecto de declaración con el apoyo y la redacción conjunta de las delegaciones de Chile y Bolivia. Evidentemente no es para su discusión en este periodo de sesiones, pero sí para su inscripción dentro del punto 7 como un ítem específico para el 41 periodo de sesiones, y durante ese proceso iniciaremos una larga práctica de consultas para ir incorporando a este proyecto de declaración una visión común y consensual. Muchas gracias, señora Presidenta.
Thank you, Ambassador. Now, I would like to give the floor to the representative of Philippines. You have the floor. No? Then, yes, I would like to give the floor to the representative of Lebanon. You have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Nous souhaiterions essentiellement revenir sur le point sur lequel ICOMOS a insisté, la question de la reconstruction. Pour la première fois depuis la Deuxième Guerre mondiale, la question de la reconstruction après les destructions provoquées par des conflits armés devient une des questions principales à laquelle nous devons faire face. Il ne faut pas oublier qu'après la Deuxième Guerre mondiale, la question de la reconstruction a été à la base de la création de l'UNESCO. La reconstruction du tissu social, la reconstruction des liens entre les différentes sociétés. Aujourd'hui, pour la première fois, nous avons à cette échelle, puisque à cette échelle, un problème qui se pose et qui suppose de notre part une réelle réflexion sur les nouvelles, une réflexion essentiellement théorique tout d'abord, et ensuite une réflexion sur les concepts et sur les méthodologies de reconstruction. Après la Deuxième Guerre mondiale, il y a eu une reconstruction qui a été faite de façon rapide. On sait qu'il y a eu des tas de débats sur les conséquences de cette reconstruction. Il y avait des effets positifs, des effets négatifs. Il est temps aujourd'hui de reprendre une réelle réflexion théorique à ce sujet. Dans les années 90, il y avait déjà eu un début de réflexion à ce sujet avec les problèmes de la reconstruction des pays de l'ex-Yougoslavie, la reconstruction de Beyrouth. À l'époque, l'Union internationale des architectes avait créé un programme de travail que j'avais moi-même présidé sur la reconstruction des villes après les guerres. Nous avions commencé un peu une réflexion de comparative avec la reconstruction de la Deuxième Guerre mondiale, puis évidemment, à cause de manque de moyens, etc., on n'a pas pu aller plus loin. Je pense qu'il serait intéressant aujourd'hui pour notre comité de réfléchir aux moyens de pouvoir avoir une réflexion d'experts, peut-être un groupe de travail d'experts ou alors une série de réunions d'experts concernant cette question de la reconstruction, non seulement reconstruction physique, mais reconstruction sociale, reconstruction du tissu social, donc la reconstruction dans toutes ses dimensions. Merci.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to the representative of Jamaica. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jamaica notes with regret the main factors negatively impacting the conservation of World Heritage Sites, such as lack of management systems and plans, illegal activities, natural disasters, and the impact of tourism. The consistent theme for many surrounds emergency situations in conflict. Not only are we contending with the real issue of the threat to preserving the cultural legacies of our states parties, but conflict has a negative impact on local economies and the ability of local people to realize the full benefits of sustainable tourism at World Heritage Sites. In an effort to alleviate some of the difficulties in state parties that are exposed to continued conflict, we believe countries must take some basic action, such as ratifying and implementing international instruments, which will help in safeguarding efforts. We have indicated an amendment that speaks to this. As we see from some of the cases to be presented, there have been some positive movements, especially in relation to reconstruction of sites that can stand up to rigor of questions on authenticity and integrity of sites. States parties should be congratulated for their efforts, particularly in situations where conflict is persistent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to the representative of Poland. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I would like to thank the World Heritage Center and advisory bodies for the useful report, and in particular in the context of reconstruction issue. Madam Chair, on the 14th of June, Poland presented in UNESCO headquarters in Paris an exhibition like Phoenix from Ashes, Destruction and Reconstruction of Warsaw, 1939-1955. After the Second World War, Poland had to make a great effort in order to get up. The case of reconstruction works resulted not only in the restoration of the Polish capital, but also in gaining of a significant expertise in the field of rebuilding of a culture, heritage, and identity. Today, the old town of Warsaw is inscribed on the World Heritage List as an outstanding example of complete reconstruction of a deliberately destroyed city. It is a symbol of hope for all these people whose heritage was wiped off the face of the earth, that what they lost can be returned. This exhibition has been for us a strong inspiration. We came to realize that the need to reconstruct destroyed World Heritage sites becomes more and more urgent, and that the exchange of information on good practices seems now even more important. As it is stressed in the document concerning item 7 prepared for this session, as well as it was reported by the representative of ICOMOS, more reflection is needed on the issue of reconstruction of World Heritage properties, and that there is a degree of urgency for this. That's why Poland would be happy and honored to organize a major international conference on reconstruction to provide further guidelines to the World Heritage Committee in this context. This kind of event would be a unique opportunity to gather the experts from all around the world and to discuss this burning issue. Madam Chair, we have other topics to present under this agenda item, but we will raise it after examination of all state conservation reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. Now I would like to give the floor to the representative of Tanzania. You have the floor.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. The United Republic of Tanzania would like to express its appreciation to the World Heritage Center for a comprehensive report on the issues of state of conservation, which is the heart of the convention. However, we would like to raise 3 points for consideration. First, the transparency and dialogue. We would like to recommend the advisory bodies to increase transparency and dialogue with the concerned parties during the process of examination and the state of conservation report. This will enhance transparency, credibility, participation, minimize factual errors in reports, and arrive at objective decisions. Such improvement will not only cultivate a common understanding of the issues on the ground, but also provide common solutions. It will also remove unnecessary misunderstandings, result in efficient use of time during discussions, and propose realistic recommendations that reflect the situation on the ground. The second issue, the issues of corrective measures and desired state of conservation for removal from World Heritage in danger. These also deserve a renewed attention as they appear to cause delays if not prepared in a timely and a consultative manner. They should be streamlined as much as possible to simplify compliance on the part of the set parties concerned, and as such facilitate their timely removal from the danger list. To this end, we recommend that the options should be explored to formulate the desired state of conservation from the removal of World Heritage in danger before the properties are inscribed on the World Heritage list in danger, in line with the spirit expressed in paragraph 183 to 189 of the operational guidelines. The issues of environmental impact assessments and heritage impact assessments in relation to conservation of the outstanding universal values also need to be re-examined. While the preparation of EIAs is common standard in most of the state parties, HIAs are not as popular. This should be in an additional mechanism spearheaded by the World Heritage Center to integrate HIAs within the legal frameworks of all state parties. Perhaps this is an additional area that could be considered to benefit from the capacity building mechanism of the World Heritage Center. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to the representative of Lebanon.
شكرا حضرة الرئيسة. لبنان يشكر سعادة سفيرة بولندا لاقتراحها استقبال اجتماع للتفكير وتمحيص الاقتراحات بخصوص إعادة الإعمار في البلدان ما بعد الحروب والكوارث، وذلك كي نستفيد ويستفيد العالم من الخبرة البولندية التي اكتسبتها بعد الحروب التي تعرضت لها بولندا. فهي قد تكون لها إيجابية بالنسبة لقرارات التراث العالمي في هذا الخصوص. إذن الشكر مجددا للاقتراح البولندي وننوه ونؤيد.
Thank you. Now I would like to give the floor to the representative of Indonesia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to appreciate the report made by the Advisory Committee and also by the Director of World Heritage Center. We have at least 2 or 3 concerns regarding with the report. First, as we discussed yesterday, we have to be in balance between conservation and development as we approve our SDG in the world. So we would like to propose for the Advisory Committee to be more comprehensive in assessing the World Heritage properties, whether dealing with conservation and dealing with development. It must be in balanced manner. The second thing, we would like to appreciate from IUCN's concerns that climate change is also will be very, very important for World Heritage properties. Because one, World Heritage properties, mostly natural, will give big contributions in mitigating the climate change. But on the other side, some of our cultural heritage sites will get the bad impacts of climate change. So we have to be put the climate change issue in our priority action in the futures. And thirdly, I think is, as our distinguished colleague from Peru mentions, the role of non-state actors also be considerable in this manner. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The last speaker on my list is Philippines, representative of Philippines. Then I will give the floor to Turkey.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. The growing number of World Heritage sites and the severe challenges confronting them, such as their deliberate targeting by extremist groups, climate change, and pressures of globalization, as we have seen in the report under this item as well as the various SOC reports, make the case for a robust system of World Heritage protection, conservation, and capacity building. Yet in fact, as we also see from the various reports, our system is incrementally losing its fortitude and ability to respond effectively to the urgent challenges of the present and the future. Our delegation believes there is a serious need to revisit the founding principles of the Convention and retool the committee, secretariat, and advisory bodies to enable us to strategically position the Convention as an instrument for peace and sustainable development, as outlined in the policy document on the SDGs. We agree with IUCN that climate change is a crucial factor that our committee should engage on strategically for the future, as was mentioned by the distinguished delegate of Indonesia. We also think that capacity building for environmental impact assessment and heritage impact assessments should be looked at, as was mentioned by the distinguished delegate of Tanzania. And we also agree with the distinguished delegate of Finland that more emphasis should be done on capacity building for management and management plans. We'd just like to note that there are currently 48 properties that the committee has inscribed on the world of properties, of the list of properties in danger. We note that most of these properties are natural properties from Africa and properties affected by armed conflict. We believe that danger listing should result in actions that help properties and states parties gain better protection and should not be seen as a kind of sanction. As stated in Article 11.4 of the Convention, the list of World Heritage in danger is a device that generates assistance not only from the center but from other countries and stakeholders as well for the preservation of OUV. However, some properties have been on the danger list for quite some time already, so we should really examine this and make sure that danger listing helps these properties move out eventually of the danger list and again in the World Heritage list. And we would just like to flag this as a point of reflection, since there are so many properties already on the list and many also proposed for potential danger listing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I give the floor to the representative of Turkey. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me first thank the Secretariat for the comprehensive report. We take note with great concern the increasing negative factors affecting the World Heritage sites around the world. We believe that there is a need for a consultative process whereby all stakeholders could engage in an open discussion on these various negative aspects. And particularly taking into consideration the conflict situation in several countries around the world, we believe that it is timely for the international community to reflect on the issue of reconstruction, specifically on World Heritage properties. And we believe that this reflection exercise should be a multidisciplinary process where all experts will have the opportunity to explore these complex issues in its entirety. In this regard, we welcome the offer of Poland to organize a major reconstruction conference and thank the Polish government. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to the representative of Kuwait. You have the floor.
شكرا سعادة الرئيسة. أتمنى أن دولة الكويت تضيف إلى المقترح البولندي وأيضا اللبناني، حيث الكويت مرت بأزمة سابقة ولديها من الخبرة في إعادة الإعمار في بعض المدن. شكرا.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite Madame Rösler to reply the questions raised from the
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and I would like to thank all the delegates for the very constructive debate we had here and for the offers made. On reconstruction, we had the first meetings, for example, on Aleppo in July 2015 already, and we had reflection meetings together with ICOMOS and at many other occasions. So we very much welcome the offer of Poland to host a meeting. Concerning the natural heritage expertise mentioned by Finland, I referred to it already yesterday. We are looking forward to any offers from any country to second a person until we have a person in place through a regular program post at the World Heritage Center. On HIA's heritage impact assessments, as I said, we will do a side event to further have a reflection tonight at 7 o'clock. And there were a number of comments by Tanzania and also the Philippines on the dialogue with the center and the advisory bodies in terms of transparency of the state of conservation processes, which is very important, and on the removal of from the danger list of sites on this list. Now, I think it's very important to make very clear why a site is listed on the danger list, so that you can tick off that everything has been done, that you are able to take it off from the danger list as soon as possible. But I also support the statement which was made by the Philippines, that danger list is not a blackmailing, it is really a call to the international community to help a site. And I think whenever a mission is dispatched and this mission identifies potential danger listing, that the dialogue with the state parties should already start on the corrective measures, etc. I hope I have answered all the questions, and I also agree with Indonesia on a more comprehensive approach on sustainable development and reconciling conservation and sustainable development, as was done at the recent meeting in Arusha with the Ngorongoro Declaration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madame Rösler.
Keep the item open.
Yes, I would like to remind you that item 7 is open for debate until we conclude items 7A and 7B. Dear colleagues, according to paragraph 190 of the operational guidelines, the committee shall review annually the state of conservation of properties on the list of World Heritage in danger. We have now reached this crucial part of our agenda, which is at the heart of the Convention. Before we start the examination of individual state of conservation reports, I would like to give the floor to Madame Rösler, Director of the World Heritage Center, to introduce this item. Madame Rösler, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you have in front of you document 7A, 7A Add, 7A Add 2, and the list of state of conservation reports proposed for discussion for later on. These documents present detailed reports on the state of conservation of 48 properties inscribed on the list of World Heritage in danger. And in addition, Madam Chair, you have two general decisions included in these documents, one on the World Heritage properties in the Syrian Arab Republic and one on the World Heritage properties in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. I would also like to draw your attention to the fact that less than 1/3, 14 out of 48 of the 48 requested state party SOC reports were received by the World Heritage Center by the statutory deadline of 1st of February, making the timely preparation of these documents very challenging. And this relates also to the debate we just had. If we don't get the reports in time, there is also little time for any dialogue with the state parties. Mrs. Chairperson, with your permission, I would therefore like to call upon all state parties to do their utmost to comply with the statutory deadlines and to submit reports according to the format included as Annex 13 of the operational guidelines in one of the working languages of the Convention. In line with our rotation policy, this year we will start the presentation of the reports with cultural properties in the following order of regions: Latin America and the Caribbean, Africa, Arab states, Asia Pacific, Europe and North America. And these presentations are done jointly by the Secretariat with our advisory bodies. After the examination of cultural properties, we will proceed to the examination of natural properties in the same regional order. There are no mixed properties on the list of World Heritage in danger. We had proposed a selection of reports to be discussed, and then, as I informed you earlier this morning and what was discussed at the Bureau, there will be some additional reports, and these reports were included in the INF7 REF document, but as I informed you this morning, we will issue a REF2 with the additional proposals which were presented this morning also at the Bureau. Before concluding, I would also like to recall some of the committee's rules of procedure which you may wish to apply on this agenda item to facilitate the conduct of our debates. Rule 22.5, the chairperson shall put committee members' questions to a state party once at the end of the committee's debate on the property. Rule 22.6, state parties shall not speak to properties in their own territories except at the explicit invitation of the chairperson within the allowed time for their speech in response to a specific question posed. Lastly, Madam Chair, I would like to remind the distinguished committee members about the very important decision 35-12E, which the committee adopted in 2011, requesting state parties to consider refraining from providing additional information regarding the state of conservation issues after the deadlines indicated in the operational guidelines, because this information cannot be evaluated here on the spot by the advisory bodies. Therefore, if any such updates are received by the Secretariat recently, we will highlight them during our presentations. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Rösler, for this very useful introduction. If there is no question, we shall now proceed with the examination of the first report. Although this property was not proposed for discussion, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Rossi, Chief of the Latin America and the Caribbean region of the World Heritage Center, to provide a clarification on the draft decision of Humberstone and Santa Laura, St. Peter Works, Chile. You have the floor, Mr. Rossi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I refer to the document concerning the property Humberstone and Santa Laura Salpeter Works, Chile, that can be found at page 1, both in the English and the French version of document WHC 1640-7A. We just wanted to point out, for the sake of precision, that the name of the university involved in the implementation of the action conducted by the state party should read University Arturo Prat and not University of Valparaiso. And this rectification applies to all the occurrences of the name in question throughout the document, including the draft decision. And that is all. Many thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments or objections from committee members on this clarification? I see none. I therefore declare decision 40-7A.2 adopted as amended. I now would like to give back the floor to Mr. Rossi to read the list of the properties for which the reports are proposed for adoption without discussion. You have the floor, Mr. Rossi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The cultural properties under item 7A, for which the reports are proposed for adoption without discussion, are the following. City of Potosi, plurinational state of Bolivia, whose draft decision can be found at page 4 of both the English and the French version of document WHC 1640-7A add. Fortification on the Caribbean side of Panama, Portobello, San Lorenzo, Panama, draft decision at page 7 of the English and of the French version of document WHC 1640-7A. Chan Chan Archaeological Zone, Peru, whose draft decision can be found at page 10 of both the English and the French version of document WHC 1640-7, and Madam Chair, Coro and its port, Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, draft decision at page 14 of both the English and the French version of document WHC 1640-7A. This is all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rossi. If there is no objection from the committee on those state of conservation reports, I declare the decisions read out adopted. I will now invite Mr. Edmond Mukala, Chief of the Africa Unit of the World Heritage Center, to present the reports on the state of conservation of the cultural properties located in the Africa region and opened for discussion. Mr. Mukala, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I will be speaking in the national language of the country concerned. So I will be speaking in French for the case of Tombouctou. Donc, merci Madame la Présidente. L'État partie du Mali n'a pas été en mesure de soumettre un rapport sur l'état de conservation du bien. Néanmoins, plusieurs rapports techniques ont pu être collectés auprès du bureau de l'UNESCO à Bamako suite aux nombreuses missions menées sur le terrain pour constituer le rapport de l'état de conservation du bien. Donc, le rapport de l'état de conservation du bien se trouve dans le document WAC 1640 comme 7A AD, page 6 pour la version française et page aussi 6 pour la version anglaise. Ce rapport a été soumis pour discussion par le Centre du patrimoine mondial et les organisations consultatives. Il fait état de la fragilité de la situation sécuritaire à Tombouctou, qui n'a pas permis à l'État partie d'inviter la mission conjointe UNESCO-ICOMOS-ICROM de suivi réactif demandé afin d'évaluer l'état général de conservation du bien. Une réunion d'évaluation a toutefois eu lieu sur l'état de conservation à Bamako afin d'examiner le rapport des missions techniques, des études, un rapport d'activité réalisées ainsi que des constats et témoignages des gestionnaires des sites et des représentants des communautés locales. Cette réunion a permis d'élaborer des mesures correctives et d'engager la préparation de l'état de conservation souhaité en vue du retrait du bien de la liste du patrimoine mondial en péril. Le Centre du patrimoine mondial tient donc à féliciter l'État partie pour les efforts déployés dans la reconstruction des 14 mausolées des saints détruits pendant la période d'occupation de Tombouctou en 2012 et remercie les partenaires qui se sont mobilisés dans le cadre du projet de reconstruction du patrimoine culturel du Mali. Le Centre du patrimoine donc, invite une nouvelle fois la communauté internationale à offrir son soutien à l'État partie pour le renforcement des mesures de conservation et de gestion. Donc si vous permettez, Madame la Présidente, je vais passer la parole à l'organisation consultative, si vous permettez.
Representative of ICOMOS.
Thank you, Madam Chair. ICOMOS would like to applaud the State Party for the reconstruction of the 14 mausolea that were destroyed during the conflict. We would like to be reassured that the record of this important work and the architectural and other studies in which it was based will be submitted to the World Heritage Centre as an essential part of the documentation of the property in order that this work itself and the essential role of the Masons can be recorded and appreciated by future generations. And following on from this work, we note that the restoration of the two mosques is still urgently needed. We welcome the corrective measures that have now been defined and support their approval. These should provide the opportunity for further dialogue, even if no mission is possible, in order that an appropriate timetable can be set out for their implementation and a desired state of conservation defined that would need to be met for the removal of the property in the future from the World Heritage List in danger. ICOMOS is ready and willing to support this process with whatever means can be used in the current difficult circumstances. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Now the floor is open for the comments of the committee. Okay, representative of Finland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Although Finland regrets that the state party was not able to submit the State of Conservation report, that being a crucial document for the committee members, we would like to thank the UNESCO office in Mali for gathering information about the rehabilitation of cultural heritage project. Without this effort, we would not be able to discuss the issue here today. We all remember the upsetting moments during the committee meeting in St. Petersburg when the State Party of Mali informed us about the escalating situation on a daily basis. Therefore, the news from Timbuktu today are very encouraging, and Finland would like to congratulate the State Party on the reconstruction and the conservation work of the 14 destroyed mausoleums, several libraries, and one of the mosques. All of this based on scientific studies done in consultation with the families associated with the mausoleums and the Corporation of Masons. Without the involvement of the local communities, it would not be possible to ensure the long-time conservation and protection of the properties. The organization of a meeting in order to prepare corrective measures and the desired state of conservation for the removal of the property from the list of World Heritage in danger is also a good solution in a situation where it has not been possible to send a reactive monitoring mission to the property. Finland supports the draft decisions and would like to encourage the State Party of Mali in their continuing efforts to restore Timbuktu to its former glory. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The next speaker is representative of Portugal. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. And as it is the first time I speak at this meeting, allow me to congratulate you on the chairmanship of our meeting and to wish you well. Let me assure you that you can count on our support to your endeavors in order to reach the objectives that we all share. Through you, I also thank the Turkish authorities for organizing this session and for their hospitality. And finally, allow me also to congratulate Madam Rösler, an old friend, on her appointment at the helm of the center, and thank her also for her constant commitment to our cause. Now, concerning the sites in Mali, we would like to strongly recommend the positive efforts that were made under extraordinary adverse conditions, both by the State Party and by UNESCO. As we know, the mausolea of Timbuktu have long been places of pilgrimage for the people of Mali and neighboring Western African countries, and they are an important part of the region's religious belief system and an important element of social cohesion. It is indeed an accomplishment that the Corporation of Masons of Timbuktu have been able to rebuild all the 14 mausoleums destroyed in 2012, which represent a tragic loss for the local communities. And we praise the government of Mali for fully respecting traditional practices with instrumental help of UNESCO and for the full participation of the community in this project. And I thank you, Madam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you for your very kind words also. Now I give the floor to the representative of Tanzania. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Through the head of delegation of the United Republic of Tanzania, I would like to make 3 comments on this presentation. One is on the threats. I totally agree with the World Heritage Center and the advisory bodies on the clearly identification of the threats which are an issue to the property. And I do commend them for the clear identification and the clear guidelines on how we should move forward. On the observations, I would want to observe the following. One, we do observe that the third party could not present a report on the state of conservation. But at the same time, we also note that a lot of work was done on the restoration and rehabilitation of the mausoleum. I do think there is a communication kind of disparity, because if they can do such a good job, why they couldn't make a report? But at the same time, I do understand that the UNESCO field office did prepare a report. So I think in this area, we should also be able to sympathize with the situation in Timbuktu. Not only that they are not able to present the set of conservation report, but also to see what are the basic issues why they will not be able to present the report. But I do propose that in line with the convention, Article 6, to call upon the community, the international community, the regional community, to assist this third party so that they can continue with the good work they are doing, which the state part of Tanzania do recommend that the work they have done. I so clearly want the World Heritage Center and the advisory bodies to help this third party to come up with strategies and resourceful means to be able to help the third party. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now the floor is representative of Burkina Faso. You have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Ma délégation souhaiterait également prendre note de cette présentation du rapport qui vient d'être faite sur Tombouctou et également féliciter l'État malien pour tous les efforts qu'il a entrepris dans le sens de la reconstruction des sites de Tombouctou, mais aussi de la coopération avec l'UNESCO et l'ICOMOS. Nous constatons en effet que l'État partie n'a pas pu soumettre son rapport, et comme l'a déjà indiqué la Tanzanie, certainement il y a eu des contraintes, et nous voudrons inviter l'État malien à poursuivre cette coopération avec tous les partenaires pour finaliser ce rapport et le soumettre, et également poursuivre cette coopération fructueuse qu'il a déjà engagée. Merci Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to the representative of Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We commend and welcome such concrete result of having all mausoleums being restored with accurate historical evidence and respecting the traditional techniques. And congratulate the State Party of Mali on the consecration ceremony that took place in February 2016. We sincerely hope that the entire heritage be placed under a consolidated management plan for future conservation, and ask that the TSOCRs are established to streamline decisions to that end. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I give the floor to the representative of Turkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We congratulate the State Party for immediate efforts for recovering the situations of the property following the attacks and occupations at the site. Also, we appreciate the financial and technical supports provided for Malian experts and authorities in this regard. The only information with regard to the site's current situation is obtained by UNESCO office in Bamako, and no reactive monitoring machine has been deployed since 2013. Therefore, the quality of reconstructions work and the level of protection of authenticity needs to be assessed by the advisory body closely. Keeping in mind the impossibility of a reality monitoring mission to the site, we appreciate the efforts for organizing an evaluation meeting on the state of conservation of the property. It would have been highly beneficial to invite advisory body representatives to this evaluation meeting in Bamako. This could also be a solution for other properties facing similar problems of not conducting a reactive monitoring mission at the sites due to security problems. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the representative of Angola.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Nous allons nous aligner également aux propos des autres membres du comité. Si nous regardons un peu le poids des risques qui ont pesé sur les biens maliens, nous pouvons donc nous imaginer les efforts que cet État fait pour essayer de reconstruire. Surtout, nous aimerions reconnaître ici l'implication de toutes les parties prenantes, notamment le maçon praticien et les autres qui ont donné leur meilleur pour participer à ce processus de reconstruction. Donc ces efforts doivent être reconnus, bien que l'État n'ait pas soumis à un rapport justement sur l'état de conservation actuel, mais nous devons reconnaître ces efforts. Et donc nous demandons au Centre du patrimoine mondial ainsi qu'à tous les partenaires qui accompagnent l'État partie de pouvoir donc continuer à les soutenir, à les doter donc des moyens nécessaires pour que ce processus de reconstruction arrive au bout et que ces biens soient donc sortis de la liste du patrimoine en péril dans le tout prochain jour, la prochaine année s'il faut le dire. Merci.
Thank you. Now I give the floor to the representative of Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too join colleagues in congratulating the State Party of Mali for the effort that has been made in the reconstruction of the mausoleums. I would like to make my intervention on the issue of documentation of indigenous technical knowledge. There is a lot of credit that has been given to the masons that have led in the reconstruction of the mausoleums, and this tradition is passed through through indigenous technical knowledge. But I would like to appeal the exploration through the advisory bodies and through the World Heritage Center of documenting and capturing this traditional knowledge so that it can be useful in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. Now I give the floor to the representative of Peru.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. El Perú evidentemente se suma a las expresiones de otras delegaciones en el sentido de hacer un aprecio profundo por los avances realizados en la reconstrucción. Creo que los resultados en la restauración completa del templo nos dan tres enseñanzas. En primer lugar, la capacidad del propio país, de sus propias autoridades, de las poblaciones locales, para ir a un tipo de reconstrucción que respeta las técnicas tradicionales y que se sitúa dentro de lo que vendría a ser una reconstrucción de carácter sostenible. En segundo lugar, creemos que es indispensable dotar este proceso de una sostenibilidad en el tiempo y en el ejercicio de los procesos de gestión, razón por la cual consideramos indispensable que se pueda enviar una misión viable de los órganos consultivos para que puedan concertar la definición y la estructuración de un sistema de gestión que dé sostenibilidad a todo el proceso. Y finalmente, señora presidenta, quiero relevar el hecho de que este caso muestra cómo un esfuerzo conjunto puede dar resultados específicos y de esa forma tener una suerte de modelo respecto de cómo se debe actuar en situaciones similares, y por ello la importancia de lo señalado por algunas delegaciones respecto de documentar adecuadamente toda esta experiencia, labor en la que los órganos consultivos y el centro deben tener también un papel relevante. Gracias.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the representative of Jamaica. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Jamaica had made the point earlier that we think it is important that states parties are congratulated for their efforts, particularly in situations where conflict is persistent. And I think this particular case speaks to that very fact. We really think it is important, and the delegate from Peru would have spoken to this, that this particular case could be seen as a model. And as a result of that, we feel it is very important that states parties are congratulated and encouraged for their efforts, especially in difficult situations. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the representative of Philippines.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Philippines would like to extend its congratulations to Mali for the positive developments of the site, specifically the reconstruction of the 14 saint mausoleums that were destroyed by armed groups in 2012. Though it would be desirable to have submitted a state of conservation report for this session, we understand that pending logistical and coordinating challenges in the site itself might have contributed to the non-submission. Nevertheless, we would like to encourage the state party to follow the recommendations in the draft decision, namely the submission of a reconstruction strategy and to invite a joint World Heritage Center ICOMOS reactive monitoring mission once the security situation allows for it. We wish to encourage the international community to support Mali for the full rehabilitation and protection of the site. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. No more requests for the floor. I now invite you to adopt the draft decision 40.7a.6 concerning this property. I would like to ask our rapporteur if she has received any amendments on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I have one amendment that was submitted by Jamaica, and Jamaica proposes to change a word in paragraph 4, and instead of efforts, put in significant work. And you can see the changes appearing on the screen in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you. I think ICOMOS would like to add some comments. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
ICOMOS would just like to make 3 very short points. Just to clarify that ICOMOS did have representatives of the meeting that was held in Bamako, and this was a very good opportunity to use that sort of process when other types of missions were not possible. We would certainly like to commend the suggestion by the Honourable Delegate from Jamaica, from Korea, on the Zimbabwe, I beg your pardon, on the documentation of additional indigenous technical knowledge, which we consider is absolutely crucial to sustaining the buildings in Timbuktu and other sites that we will be discussing later on, and would certainly welcome an initiative to pursue that process. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I see representative of Mali is asking for the floor. You have the floor.
Alors, je vous remercie pour toute l'attention que vous avez accordée à mon pays et singulièrement au site de Tombouctou dont je suis le gestionnaire. Alors donc je présente mes regrets et mes excuses pour le rapport qui n'est pas arrivé visiblement au niveau du comité du patrimoine mondial, mais je dois dire qu'avec le bureau UNESCO de Bamako, dont il faut saluer tout le courage et l'engagement, qu'on fait des activités, on va dire, quotidiennes. Et pratiquement à toutes les étapes, il y a des rapports intermédiaires, des rapports finaux qui remontent non seulement au bureau du bureau UNESCO de Bamako, mais aussi au niveau de la Direction nationale du patrimoine culturel. Et lors de la mission conjointe Centre du patrimoine mondial ICOMOS à Bamako, au ministère de la Culture, personnellement, j'ai produit un rapport de gestion et un rapport sur l'état de conservation du site de Tombouctou. Et M. Bandjougou Diawara, qui dirigeait cette délégation, et l'ICOMOS s'en ont servi pour élaborer ce document de base. Je me suis rendu compte tout juste avant de venir ici qu'un rapport sur l'état de conservation n'a pas été fourni. Et je pense qu'on fera tout pour que ça soit corrigé. Mais pour ce qu'on dit sur le fait qu'on ne peut pas aller à Tombouctou pour suivre l'état de gestion, je pense que c'est déplorable. Parce que pendant tout le processus de reconstruction, de réhabilitation qui suit son cours encore aujourd'hui, il y a des missions qui arrivent. Il y a donc un architecte français de cratère qui vient tous les 2 mois jusqu'à Tombouctou. On organise ça avec la MINUSMA. Alors, donc, les communautés de Tombouctou remercient l'UNESCO, le Centre du patrimoine mondial, tous les partenaires financiers qui sont mis pour la réhabilitation de ces patrimoines. Ce patrimoine a été réhabilité, c'est aussi en train d'être réhabilité. Mais il y a l'aspect sécuritaire qui me rend personnellement frileux. Parce que les sites, notamment les mausolées, sont disséminés autour de la ville dans des cimetières non clôturés et qui sont à la merci de n'importe quel vandale ou de n'importe quel esprit malfaisant. C'est pourquoi dans tous les rapports que j'ai fournis à la Direction nationale du patrimoine culturel, au bureau UNESCO de Bamako, j'ai attiré l'attention sur le fait que le travail qui a été fait peut être détruit en une fraction de seconde par les terroristes. On sait que ceux-ci vivent dans la réactivité. Il y a actuellement un qui est en train d'être jugé au niveau de la CPI et il y a des craintes qu'en réaction, qu'on puisse détruire tout ce qu'on a eu à faire. J'ai pris pour moi le soin de faire venir à Tombouctou un commissaire de police spécialisé dans la sécurisation des biens culturels pour élaborer un plan de sécurisation des sites reconstruits. Il y a un rapport que j'ai fait, que j'ai envoyé au niveau du bureau UNESCO de Bamako, au niveau de la Direction nationale du patrimoine culturel. J'en ai discuté avec les représentants de la MINUSMA à Tombouctou. Et tous me disent, surtout la MINUSMA me dit, ça revient au gouvernement malien. On sait qu'aujourd'hui, à Tombouctou, dans un rayon de 5 km autour de la ville, c'est vraiment le chien-lit. C'est impossible de faire quoi que ce soit. Donc voilà, mais c'est surtout ce qui me préoccupe. C'est bien, il y a eu de la reconstruction, il y a eu du travail fait. Et le plus positif, c'est qu'on a réussi par cette reconstruction à ancrer la notion du patrimoine culturel dans l'esprit des communautés. Jusqu'à présent, les mausolées, les mosquées, c'était un patrimoine cultuel aux yeux des communautés. Donc la reconstruction, les discussions, les réunions, les séminaires, notamment avec les maçons, ont fait que le patrimoine culturel est une notion dont se sont appropriées les communautés. Mais alors, il faudrait que ce travail ne tombe pas à l'eau. Il faudrait...
Excuse me, could you please wrap up? You have 1 more minute.
Le temps passé, c'est ça?
Could you please
voilà,
wrap up?
Alors donc, ma conclusion, c'est qu'on nous a reproché le manque de rapport d'état de conservation. Ça va être corrigé dans les plus brefs délais. Et ensuite, moi, ce qui me taraude l'esprit, c'est la sécurisation de tout ce qui a été fait. Il y a eu une reconstruction, mais les sites reconstruits ne sont absolument pas sécurisés. Donc ils sont à la merci de ces islamistes armés qui sont dans la ville de Tombouctou. Voilà. Donc il faudrait absolument le noter et envisager avec la MINUSMA, avec les forces Barkhane, les forces françaises, d'envisager des mesures sérieuses pour sécuriser ces biens. Sinon, on pourrait se retrouver dans l'état où tout ce patrimoine était en 2012. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Director Rosler.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. For us, it's always a pleasure to have a site manager with us and to give us the replies directly. Just to answer that specific question on the monitoring mission, for any reactive monitoring mission, we require security clearance. So we can only go on the ground if the security clearance is obtained. And in this case, I also suggest to have further debates between Mr. Mukala and the site manager and the team from Mali to see what we can do, including on the security issues, which we actually discussed yesterday as a general theme. So we are very much aware of that, and we will try to help, I can assure you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rösler. Any more comments or objections? I see none. I declare decision 40.7a.6 adopted as amended. Mr. Edmund Mukala, you have the floor to present the next property. You have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Comme pour Tombouctou, l'État partie du Mali n'a pas été donc en mesure de soumettre un rapport sur l'état de conservation du bien. Néanmoins, donc encore plusieurs rapports techniques ont pu être collectés auprès du bureau de l'UNESCO à Bamako suite aux nombreuses missions qui ont été menées sur le terrain pour constituer le rapport de conservation du bien. Donc, ce rapport se trouve dans le document WHC 1640com 7A AD, page 9 pour la version française et anglaise. Ce rapport a été soumis pour discussion par le Centre du patrimoine mondial et les organisations consultatives. Il fait état de la fragilité de la situation sécuritaire à Gao, qui n'a pas permis à l'État partie d'inviter la mission conjointe ICOMOS-UNESCO-ICROM de suivi réactif demandé afin d'évaluer l'état de conservation du bien. De même, le Centre du patrimoine mondial exprime son inquiétude sur le fait que le bien demeure soumis à des menaces réelles au niveau de ses composantes architecturales et du mécanisme de conservation et de gestion, et demande donc à l'État partie d'accélérer avec l'appui des partenaires la mise en œuvre du projet de réhabilitation du patrimoine culturel à Gao. Toutefois, une réunion d'évaluation de l'état de conservation du bien a eu lieu à Bamako, comme indiqué pour le cas donc de Tombouctou, et afin d'examiner le rapport des missions techniques, des études et rapports d'activités réalisés, ainsi que des constats et témoignages des gestionnaires des sites et des représentants des communautés locales. Cette réunion donc a permis d'élaborer des mesures correctives et d'engager les préparations de l'état de conservation souhaité en vue du retrait du bien de la liste du patrimoine mondial en péril. Donc le Centre du patrimoine mondial, une nouvelle fois, donc, invite aussi la communauté internationale à offrir son soutien à l'État partie pour le renforcement des mesures de conservation et de gestion. Et donc, c'est dans ce sens aussi que le projet de décision a été légèrement ajusté pour accommoder cet appel. Et donc, ce projet se situe donc au 40com 7A.7 est disponible donc à la page 11 pour la version française et aussi la page 11 pour la version anglaise. Donc, si vous me permettez, Madame la Présidente, je vais passer la parole aux organisations consultatives.
Representative of ICOMOS, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As with Timbuktu, the development of corrective measures is a very positive step forward. However, in contrast to Timbuktu, the information we have for the tomb of Askir in Gao gives cause for concern in relation to the apparent lack of conservation of the tomb and its associated buildings, as a result of the lack of masons and materials and an overall weakening of community structures and obligations. Masons need patrons to carry out this sort of work. Mud buildings such as the tomb rely on regular maintenance, and without it they deteriorate extremely quickly. The lack of conservation is also compounded in Gao by what appears to be a complete lack of management structures and plans. ICOMOS considers it is of the utmost importance that ways are found to open up dialogue with the property in the absence of a mission due to the current difficulties, to discuss the implementation of the corrective measures, which include strengthening management and addressing the lack of conservation. As with Timbuktu, ICOMOS is ready and willing to explore all ways for this dialogue to happen in the current very difficult circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you. I now invite the committee members to express their comments on this report. I don't see any request for the floor. I now invite you to adopt the draft decision 40.7a.7 concerning this property. May I ask our rapporteur?
Madam Chair, the rapporteur just sneaked out, but there's only this additional paragraph. Can we see it on the screen, which was proposed by the advisory bodies and the center together? Otherwise, there are no changes. Thank you.
So, can we see the... Yes. We have an amendment on paragraph 8. Are there any comments or objections on the draft decision as amended? I see none. I declare decision 40.7a.7 adopted as amended. Yes, now, Mr. Mukana, you have the floor to present the next property. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. The State of Conservation Report for the tombs of Buganda kings at Kasubi was submitted by the State Party on 8 February 2016. The report can be found in document WHC 1640.com 7A, page 15 in the English version and page 16 in the French version. This State of Conservation report has been proposed for discussion by the World Heritage Center and the advisory bodies to express the concern that no progress has been reported on the development of the master plan that was requested in 2012 as part of the corrective measures in order to ensure the conservation of the Muzibu Azala Panga and other buildings, and development proposals such as for firefighting, visitor management, and the widening of the road are all undertaken in an integrated way within an agreed framework. The draft decision for TCOM7A.8 is available on page 17 for the English version and on page 19 for the French version. And if you may, Madam Chairperson, I would give the floor to the advisory body for their interventions.
Yes, now I give the floor to the representative of ICOMOS.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was in April 2010, 6 years ago, that the main building of the Kasubi tombs, the Muziba Azala Mpanga, was destroyed. And at its 34th session in 2010, the committee was very supportive of the idea of reconstructing this building. The process was seen to be in line with the outstanding universal value of the property, which is related to ongoing traditional building practices to meet the need for periodic renewal of key elements of these exceptionally large thatched buildings. In the intervening 6 years, a great deal of work has been undertaken to define a reconstruction strategy for this large building, and we now have a revised timeline for the reconstruction work to be carried out. Although the whole process has taken much longer than was ever envisaged, the way forward does now seem clear. However, it is the view of ICOMOS that the reconstruction should only be undertaken and alongside an agreed master plan. As reconstruction work has progressed, it has become clear that the context for the Muziba, Azala and Banga building, that is the overall group of traditional buildings of which this one you see here is the focus, has become highly vulnerable, and this is of great concern. We still do not have a master plan for the property to guide the conservation of other traditional structures or visitor management arrangements, or an overall harmonized aesthetic approach for the property. And this lack has been brought sharply into focus by various proposals for solar panels and electricity stations, and specifically for firefighting equipment, which currently includes oil tanks and equipment which in our view could be highly damaging to the overall coherence of the property and its views. Currently, fire engineers are evaluating the proposals to see whether alternatives might be possible. The draft decision draws attention to the urgent need for an overall coordinated approach to the various needs and initiatives at this property through the development of the master plan, and that this should be undertaken as a matter of urgency. ICOMOS is ready and willing to offer advice on how the development of this plan might be approached. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Now the floor is open for your comments. Japan, yes. Yes, representative of Jamaica.
Madam Chair, thank you. I really wanted to make a comment concerning the issue of timelines. It was just mentioned that there is a revised timeline for reconstruction, appreciating that a master plan is to be done in tandem. Is it possible for us to also link timelines to the creation of such plans that we agree is necessary, it's key in getting the work done? I mean, the term that was just used is that a master plan is needed as a matter of urgency. So can we also take that similar approach of holding the state's parties to particular timelines? Thank you.
Thank you. Representative of Finland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The issue of desired state of conservation for the removal of the property from the list of World Heritage in danger was already earlier this morning addressed by Tanzania, Philippines and others. Finland would like to use this property to highlight the situation that we find problematic. As we heard from ICOMOS, in 2010 the tombs of Buganda kings at Kasubi were damaged by a fire that destroyed the roofs of the buildings. In a case like this, in danger listing should be used in order to provide the state party with all necessary help. This was also done with this site. During the mission to the site, several other issues that were not necessarily directly related to the damage caused by the fire were noticed. The desired state of conservation for removal of the list of World Heritage in danger adopted in 2010 requests a disaster risk management strategy and an effective fire protection system for the property, which is a clear case. However, several other things have been requested from the state party, for example, an adoption of an overall master plan for the property. In this year's draft decision, we can see the amount of issues that have been included in the management plan, among other things, a tourism strategy. We are now facing a situation where the state party in the near future will successfully have completed a demanding reconstruction of the part of the property that was destroyed in the fire, but still faces several years on the in danger list due to other issues. It is crucial to keep apart the issues directly related to the endangered listing from other more regular state of conservation issues. As our distinguished colleague from Philippines already mentioned when discussing on the general item 7, the endangered listing should also allow the site to be removed from it. Finland considers that it would be fair to remove the property from the list of World Heritage in danger as soon as the reconstruction is finished and deal with the other issues through a normal state of conservation process. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the representative of Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to commend the progress made for the conservation of the tombs of Buganda kings at Kasubi. Respecting both authenticity and incorporating risk mitigation facilities can be very difficult to keep balance. And we would like to acknowledge all the efforts of the State Party. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the representative of Japan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Japan would like to join other members of the committee in commending the efforts by the Ugandan and Buganda authorities following the tragic fire which seriously damaged this important spiritual site. We have been supporting through UNESCO the introduction of a new disaster prevention scheme, including the firefighting system as well as tourism management. This is a typical example of Japan's funding trust activities for conservation, which is to complement the international assistance under the World Heritage Fund. It is worth noting that Japanese experts in traditional thatch construction have been involved in the project using their expertise and experiences to help the reconstruction by local experts. This is what you might call the twining of experts with different traditions to find a best solution. A second appraisal mission will be sent from Japan in the coming months to reassess the situation. On this occasion, we would like to ask for even closer coordination between the State Party and UNESCO to prevent further delay in the reconstruction. We sincerely hope the success of the reconstruction work and express our continued support to the efforts by the government of Uganda, the Buganda Kingdom, and all other stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative of Turkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We firstly welcome the statements of the State Party regarding stopping all development projects until the completion of the master plan. Also, the State Party claims that the reconstruction of Muzibi Azala Mapanga has been halted pending the completion of master plan. Also, they foresee that the reconstruction will be completed by December 2017. Therefore, we share the concerns of ICOMOS that the master plan should be finalized and shared with the advisory body in a timely manner before the commencement of the reconstructions. Otherwise, the evaluation of master plan by both the advisory body and the committee may not be possible to project further steps for the reconstruction. We therefore request the State Party to clarify the time frame for the actualization of the master plan and also revise its implementation vis-à-vis the reconstructions accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the representative of Tanzania.
Thank you, Chair. And through the head of the delegation of the United Republic of Tanzania, I would want to also to make some few comments on the reconstruction of the Buganda Kings tombs. The issue at hand is a catastrophe that happened in 2010. The building bent down, and that was the reason why we didn't put the site on the danger list. Today, we are discussing the issue of master plan to be in place before we reconstruct the Kasubi tombs. The Tanzania delegation would want to reconsider, first, to look into the reasons. Why is the master plan delaying? Is it an issue of technical issues, or is it an issue of money, or what is the issue? Because it is taking too long. Since 2012, to date, we don't have a master plan. But if we did understand it well from our delegation, why should a master plan be a condition of a reconstruction of a structure that bent down? I feel that maybe we should discuss and see whether we should wait for the master plan, or whether we should start working together with the traditional technology that was around there, so that we continue. Because when it bent down, the local community immediately started collecting building materials. And I thought, in the spirit of the convention, we should see whether we should wait for the master plan, or whether we should do the reconstruction so that the buildings there, then the master plan will be prepared in line with the existence of the building. That is that is the humble submission of the delegation of Tanzania. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any more comments, requests for.
This is Uganda.
Representative of Uganda, you have the floor. Just for 2 minutes for the observers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I commend the efforts that have all been made towards the reconstruction of Kasubi tombs, and thank the funders that have funded this project since the commencement. But I want to associate, the Ugandan delegation wants to associate itself with the comments made by Tanzania that there is a real lack of progress because of this condition of master plan. Although I do appreciate the need of the master plan that was proposed by the technical people, so that they can take a holistic approach in reconstruction, and not only reconstruction, but preservation and preventing any other fire hazard in future. The delegation also regrets the delays in the progress on the master plan as agreed on, because this was agreed on. This is due to the difficulties in the consultative mechanisms at home. As you all know, that this is still a spiritual center active for the Baganda people, where certain rituals are regularly carried out. We do regret the delays in this consultative mechanism. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I see no more requests for the floor. I now invite you to adopt the draft decision 40-7A.8 concerning this property. I would like to ask our rapporteur.
We didn't get any changes.
So we didn't receive any proposal for amendment. I see no objection. I declare decision 40-7A.8 adopted. I will now invite Mrs. Nada El-Hassan, Chief of the Arab States Unit of the World Heritage Center, to present the other reports on the state of conservation of the cultural properties located in the Arab States region and open for discussion. Mrs. El-Hassan, you have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, en abordant aujourd'hui l'état de conservation des biens irakiens placés sur la liste en péril, nous souhaiterions souligner que très malheureusement, depuis la 39e session du patrimoine mondial, Une année noire s'est à nouveau écoulée dans l'histoire du patrimoine irakien, avec une multitude de sites archéologiques et d'édifices endommagés par des destructions délibérées, mais avant tout des souffrances humaines incommensurables. Le rapport sur l'état de conservation d'Assour, Kala-Cherkat en Irak se trouve dans le document 7A, à la page 23 en anglais et 25 en français. L'état partie indique que les groupes armés continuent d'occuper le site d'Assour, l'exposant ainsi au combat militaire, l'endommageant sans possibilité d'intervention aucune et sans possibilité non plus de collecter les informations quant à son état de conservation. Ces photos sont donc depuis l'inscription du site. Le projet de décision relate la grande préoccupation du comité face à l'impossibilité de documenter et de protéger le site d'Assour. Cependant, en concertation avec l'État partie, un amendement à la décision, discuté avec les organisations consultatives et l'État partie, est proposé pour les 3 biens irakiens inscrits sur la liste du patrimoine mondial en péril. Le projet de décision amendé sera affiché sur l'écran. Il intègre les appels de l'État partie que l'État partie souhaiterait refléter auprès de la communauté internationale, notamment un appel à la respect de la Convention de La Haye de 1954 et de la Convention pour la lutte contre le trafic illicite de 1970, ainsi qu'un appel au soutien technique et financier de la communauté internationale. Merci Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite the representative of ICOMOS.
Madam Chair, ICOMOS will take the floor after the 3 Iraqi sites. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now the floor is open for your comments.
Iraq is there, but no committee member. So a brief comment from Iraq. You just say you have no comments from committee members, you give the floor to the state party.
I see no comments from the members of the committee.
Tunisia.
No, Tunisia, you have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Je ne peux que regretter, hélas, au nom de notre pays, la Tunisie, la situation du patrimoine mondial dans ce pays frère qui, depuis des années, ne cesse de se détériorer à cause de conflits absolument stupides où le patrimoine est dans certains de ces pans complètement démolis. Et qui plus est, nous regrettons aussi notre incapacité de pouvoir documenter comme il se doit ce patrimoine en partie disparu. Je ne peux qu'en appeler aux autorités et surtout aux communautés locales et à la société civile d'aider le Centre du patrimoine mondial et d'aider les organes consultatifs, au moins pour qu'on puisse sauver, ne serait-ce que pour les archives et plus tard pour l'éventuelle restauration, pour ne pas dire reconstruction, de ces monuments. C'est un appel absolument urgent et la Tunisie, si elle peut aider en cela, nous en sommes absolument prêts. Merci.
Thank you. Any requests from the member countries? I see none, so I give the floor to the representative of Iraq. You have the floor.
شكرا سيدة الرئيس لهذا العرض تقرير الإلهام الذي يخص مواقع مسجلة في مركز التراث العالمي وعلى قائمة التراث العالمي وهي لا زالت معرضة للخطر. إن موقع آشور والحضر لا زال تحت سيطرة داعش. ولا زال تحت العمليات العسكرية، وداعش يمعن يوميا في تدمير الآثار والتراث العراقي على مرأى ومسمع من العالم أجمع. ولكن بالرغم من كل ذلك هناك عمل عديد وكبير مع عدد كبير من الجهات الدولية والمحلية أبرزها مع مركز التراث العالمي في اليونسكو، وأيضا هناك ومنحة من دولة إيطاليا الصديقة للقيام بأعمال تدريب وتطوير قدرات الكوادر العراقية الفنية لغرض إعادة الترميم ومواصلة الإصلاح بعد عملية التحرير لهذه المواقع من الجهات الإرهابية. وأيضا هناك خطط إدارة لما بعد عملية التحرير نقوم على إعدادها بالتعاون مع اليونسكو ومركز التراث العالمي في اليونسكو. وهذه الخطط تشمل التوثيق وجمع المعلومات ودراسة الموقع بعد التدمير وإعداد التصاميم الهندسية للصيانات الطارئة الثلاثية الأبعاد، إضافة إلى أن هناك مشاريع مراقبة جوية للمواقع الثقافية والتراثية المدمرة والتي تقع تحت سيطرة الإرهابيين الدواعش. إننا نؤكد طلبنا على السيطرة على الاتجار الغير المشروع وتهريب التراث العالمي، وندعو دول الجوار وكافة دول العالم للوقوف بوجه عملية الاتجار الغير المشروع وتهريب التراث العالمي العراقي، وكذلك ندعوهم إلى تقديم الدعم المادي والمعنوي للعراق. وشكرا جزيلا.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to ask the Secretariat and ICOMOS if they would like to add something.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Nous n'avons rien à ajouter. Je pense que le projet d'amendement que nous avons vu en concertation avec l'État partie, l'ICOMOS et l'ICROM, reflète ce que Monsieur l'ambassadeur d'Irak vient de proposer. Merci.
No more requests for the floor, so I now invite you to adopt the draft decision 40.7a.10 concerning this property. I would like to ask our rapporteur if she has received any amendments on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You can see on the screen now the text that has been inserted in by the Secretariat that Mrs. Nada Al-Hassan has mentioned in her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or objection on the amendments? I see none. I declare decision 40.7a.10 adopted as amended. Mrs. Nada Al-Hassan, you have the floor to present the next property.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Le rapport sur l'état de conservation de Hatra en Irak, Al-Hadar, se trouve dans le document 7A à la page 25 en anglais et à la page 27 en français. L'État partie indique que les groupes armés continuent d'occuper le site d'Hatra, comme vient de le signaler Monsieur l'ambassadeur d'Irak, après avoir intentionnellement détruit l'année dernière les éléments sculpturaux qui ornaient certaines de ces façades avec des explosifs, des bulldozers et des marteaux-piqueurs, comme vous pouvez le voir sur ces images, sans pouvoir néanmoins préciser l'ampleur de la destruction. Le bien reste donc exposé au combat militaire, sans possibilité d'intervention aucune, et rendant très difficile la collecte d'informations quant à son état de conservation. Le projet de décision relate la grande préoccupation du comité face à l'impossibilité de documenter et de protéger le site d'Hatra. Dans ce cas aussi, à la demande en concertation avec l'État partie, un amendement à la décision est proposé. Il est identique à celui que vous avez adopté il y a 1 minute sur Assour. Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you. Is ICOMOS would like to add something later? Okay. So the floor is open for your comments. Yes, representative of Portugal.
Thank you very much. Allow me just to make two general comments on all the three sites. First, it is obvious that terrorism and instability in Iraq have naturally prevented gathering necessary information on all World Heritage Iraqi sites and to address the factors negatively affecting these properties. We deeply regret the damage caused to heritage and, of course, very much more the constant loss of lives in the country. And we praise the Iraqi people for their resilience and their courageous effort to rebuild their country against extraordinary odds. Secondly, we must recognize that until these conditions radically change, we will be faced with these severe limitations to the protection of these historical sites. It's not a very encouraging perspective, as it is not in Syria, but tragically we have to take this situation and these conditions into account, and unfortunately, as long as they prevail, there'll be terrible odds for us to meet these challenges. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. I see no more requests for the floor from the member countries, so I give the floor to the Secretariat.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Je voudrais très rapidement signaler au Portugal qu'en effet, nous sommes dans tous les pays en conflit, en relation avec toutes les missions archéologiques ou les missions scientifiques qui ont déjà documenté les sites, qui ont des relevés, des photos avant le conflit, afin de préparer les projets futurs. Donc ça, c'est général pour tous les sites en conflit. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. I see no other requests for the floor. I now invite you to adopt the draft decision 40-COM 7A.11 concerning this property. I would like to ask our rapporteur if she has received any amendments on the draft decision proposed. Mrs. Joe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Only the same ones that was proposed to be included in the previous decision with the same wording, identical. Thank you.
Thank you. Any request for the floor? Any objection to the draft amendment and draft decision? I see none. I declare decision 40-COM 7A.11 adopted as amended. Mrs. Nada Al-Hassan, you have the floor to present the next property.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Le rapport sur l'état de conservation de la ville archéologique de Samarra en Irak se trouve dans le document 7A à la page 27 en anglais et 28 en français. Samarra se trouve dans le gouvernorat de Salah ad-Din où se déroulent des opérations militaires. Ainsi, suite aux dégâts reportés l'année dernière à la coupole du dôme des Croisés, d'autres attaques ont causé des dégâts qui ont été reportés par l'État parti dans la grande mosquée, la mosquée Abu Dalaf et le dôme Salibiya. Le projet de l'UNESCO pour la gestion et la conservation de Samarra est à l'arrêt à cause de la situation. Le projet de décision relate la grande préoccupation du comité face à l'impossibilité de documenter et de protéger le site de Samarra. Dans ce cas aussi, en concertation avec l'État partie, un amendement à la décision vous est proposé de manière identique aux 2 sites précédents. Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente, et j'aimerais vous signaler que l'ICOMOS souhaiterait prendre la parole pour les 3 sites irakiens, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Mrs. Al-Hassan. Now I give the floor to the representative of ICOMOS.
Thank you, Madam Chair. ICOMOS would just to make a few general comments on the 3 properties in Iraq that we have just had presented, and to highlight the complete absence of protection and management due to the conflict causes, of course, the utmost concern, and there is a need for rapid assessment of all these properties as soon as the situation allows. But we would like to add that what is also clear is the need for those involved with these properties to understand that although little can be done currently by the committee, by the centre, by the advisory bodies, it is essential that their tragic situation is acknowledged by everybody in this room and indeed by everybody out there who is watching these proceedings. Once the situation improves and when actions can be undertaken, the need for international support will be crucial, and planning for that eventuality must start as soon as it can. ICOMOS is ready and willing to offer whatever advice may be appropriate in the circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I invite the committee members to express their comments. Representative of Kuwait.
شكرا سعادة الرئيس. في البداية أحب أن أتوجه إلى نداء إلى جميع الدول بالمحافظة على جميع التراث وبالأخص التراث العربي الذي يتعرض للتدمير والهلاك الممنهج، خاصة في العراق وسوريا وليبيا. تعرضنا للكثير، حيث الكل يعلم بأن دولة العراق تجمع جميع الأديان الموجودة لديها والتسامح، ونرى أن داعش خلق بأيادي مجهولة والآن أصبح فعلا يتعرض لجميع المدن في العراق ويمس التراث، والتراث يعتبر أغلى من النقد المالي والأموال، لأنه لديه دون غطاء هو يعتبر ثروة ليس فقط للعراق والبلاد العربية لكن للعالم أجمع. فأرجو من العالم بصدق أن يتجه إلى الترميم والتعديل والمساعدة، وإن كانت مساعدة معنوية. شكرا للجميع.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Now I give the floor to the representative of Peru.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. Es evidente que el ataque al patrimonio cultural en Irak y Siria por parte de la violencia del Daesh es el centro de la preocupación de este comité, pero es el centro también de la preocupación de la comunidad internacional en su conjunto. Creo que si recordamos la intervención de la directora general de la UNESCO, Irina Bokova, al iniciar esta reunión del comité, podemos percibir con claridad que estamos frente a una situación realmente de emergencia y de carácter muy excepcional. Consecuentemente, creo, y es una convicción de la delegación del Perú, que más allá de las decisiones que adoptemos, que son parte del curso regular de la toma de decisiones del comité en sus tareas de protección y preservación, es urgente y necesario que esta 40ª sesión del comité pueda adoptar una declaración pública específica sobre los bienes destruidos y en peligro de Irak y de Siria. Yo propongo, señora presidenta, que la Secretaría podría redactar un proyecto de declaración pública donde el comité haga un llamamiento a toda la comunidad internacional sobre la situación del patrimonio cultural en Siria y en Irak y sobre la movilización de los miembros del comité, de los miembros de la UNESCO, de los miembros de las Naciones Unidas, de la comunidad internacional, en un esfuerzo conjunto para poder cooperar en el resguardo del patrimonio de los pueblos de Siria y de Irak. Gracias, señora presidenta.
Turkey, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We observe that the recognition of these very old archaeological sites in the world has managed to take the attention of the international community to the destruction, terrorist destruction brought to this area and the humanitarian situation created because of that. We believe that restoration of the cultural values of these archaeological sites will not be possible without prior recovery of sustainable life in the area. Since yesterday we have been emphasizing on the sustainable development goals and the need for a synergy between various UNESCO agendas and conventions. Therefore, we would like to underline the importance of coordinating the efforts towards the recovery of the cultural heritage sites with those aiming to restore a peaceful life around these World Heritage Sites and in Iraq and in the region in general. Therefore, despite budgetary and organizational constraints we have been talking since yesterday, in the light of the international community's support on solidarity with Iraq and with the peoples of the region in general, we would like to encourage a thematic initiative on cultural restoration for the recovery of a sustainable life in post-conflict Middle East, which would, we believe, contribute greatly to the efforts in this vein, and we would do our best to contribute in such efforts. Thank you.
I see no more requests for the floor.
No, Azerbaijan.
Sorry. Azerbaijan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to express our support and encourage the State Party with its efforts to ensure the protection of the property, although this difficult situation and the circumstances. Also, we would like to express our deepest concern over this deliberate destruction of the Iraqi heritage and condemn the terrorist attack and express our sympathy and solidarity with the Iraqi people with the sufferings that have take place in Iraq. Also, Azerbaijan welcomes the state conservation report provided by the State Party, although the difficult situation not giving an opportunity to provide substantial information about the heritage. We encourage the State Party to continue to work with the Secretariat, and also we encourage the State Party to work with the Secretariat of the 54 Convention, and especially with the second protocol, which provides an opportunity for getting an enhanced protection, although we believe that in these difficult circumstances it will not give any substantial outcomes, but at least in terms of bringing an additional visibility to the destruction of the Iraqi heritage, we believe it will be an asset, and we strongly encourage State Party to work in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. No more requests from the member countries, so I will give the floor to the representative of Iraq.
شكرا السيد الرئيس على إتاحة الفرصة مرة أخرى للكلام، والشكر موصول أيضا إلى كافة الدول الصديقة التي قدمت المبادرات والداعمة للعراق دائما في الحفاظ على تراثه وحضارته وإرثه الثقافي. كما نشكر الآيكوموس أيضا للمبادرة التي أطلقها الآن لإبداء المساعدة في هذا الموضوع. فيما يخص موضوع ملف سامراء السادة الحضور، هناك مبادرات كبيرة من الجهات المعنية بتوفير الحماية. نحن نزف البشرى لكافة الدول بأنه تم تحرير سامراء وإبعاد الإرهابيين وداعش من هذه المنطقة، وبدأنا الآن في إزالة الشعارات وكافة الأعمال التخريبية التي حدثت على هذه المناطق، وتم توقيع اتفاقية أيضا مع اليونسكو ومركز التراث العالمي لغرض البدء بعملية الترميم والصيانة والحفظ، والعمل المستمر أيضا من قبل الخبرات الوطنية المحلية في مختبرات جامعة صلاح الدين كذلك. ونأمل أيضا أن ترفع من قائمة الخطر في العام القادم بعد أن يتم إنجاز كافة الأمور المتعلقة بهذا الموضوع. وشكرا جزيلا لكافة الدول الداعمة. شكرا سيدة الرئيس على إتاحة الفرصة.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Dr. Rösler. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Just to answer the question from Azerbaijan, I also encourage that very much the cooperation with the 1954 Convention and the second protocol is really very important. As we discussed, we have a meeting of all the chairpersons which takes place on the 26th of September, but I also encourage it because we have a fund under the 1954 Convention which is beneficial in such situations and can be used by states parties to the second protocol. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madame Rösler. I now give the floor to Mrs. Al-Hassan.
Merci Madame la Présidente. J'aurais souhaité répondre à l'intervention de la Turquie concernant la coopération avec les acteurs humanitaires et qui œuvrent pour la construction de la paix. Et je voudrais signaler qu'en effet, l'action de l'UNESCO dans le cadre de conflits et dans le cadre de désastres s'inscrit exactement dans cette vision qui est celle de coopérer avant tout avec les acteurs humanitaires et sécuritaires et d'œuvrer pour la protection du patrimoine dans une vision holistique, non seulement humanitaire, mais aussi basée sur l'atteinte du développement durable. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. If ICOMOS doesn't have anything to add, then now we can move to the adoption of draft decision 40Com 7A.12 concerning this property. I would like to ask our rapporteur if she has received any amendments on the draft decision proposed. Mrs. Jo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Only the same ones that we have adopted for previous Iraqi heritage. Could you put it on the screens? And you see them on the screens right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Jo. Any comments or objections concerning the amendments to this? Azerbaijan, representative of Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just in line with my intervention, maybe to add second protocols, two protocols of the Convention of in the event of armed conflict, the protection of cultural property in the event of armed conflict, and provisions of the Convention of the Protection of Cultural Property in the event of armed conflict and its two protocols. And maybe we can apply this the same amendment to the previous decisions if the committee agrees on. I'm really sorry that we missed this, missed the chance to propose these amendments before. Thank you.
Ambassador, we have already closed the previous decision. Yes, any comment or objection? I see none. Then I declare decision 40Com 7A.12 adopted as amended. Dear colleagues, our next item on the agenda is the examination of the State of Conservation report on the Old City of Jerusalem and its walls. As you know, consultations are taking place between the concerned parties regarding this property. We shall therefore come back to this item at a later stage once an agreement has been reached. Thank you very much for your understanding. Before moving to our next property, my dear colleagues, I would like to urge you that if it is possible, we have to keep our interventions as short as possible because we are late on our timetable. Otherwise, we have to prolong our meeting, afternoon session, until 7 p.m. this evening. We are trying to keep our timetable. That's why it's a request from the chair to keep in time limited for the committee members as well as the observers. Thank you. Now, Mrs. Nada Al-Hassan, you have the floor to present the next property.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Mesdames et Messieurs, nous abordons à présent les sites de la Syrie. Il est important de rappeler que le conflit armé en Syrie continue de dévaster le patrimoine syrien depuis plus de 5 ans, mais avant tout, d'infliger à sa population des souffrances humaines sans précédent. Je vous prie de noter que le rapport relatif à l'ensemble des biens syriens vous sera présenté après la revue des biens inscrits sur la liste du patrimoine mondial en péril. Le rapport sur l'état de conservation de l'ancienne ville d'Alep en Syrie, que vous voyez ici sur les écrans avant le conflit, se trouve dans le document 7A, AD, à la page 16 en anglais et 16 en français. Alep continue de subir des dégâts irréversibles et étendus, bien qu'il soit impossible d'accéder aux biens et d'en évaluer les dommages avec précision. Le document devant vous énumère les nouveaux dégâts survenus depuis la 39e session du Comité du patrimoine mondial. Diapo suivante, s'il vous plaît. Vous voyez ici, avant, après, des quartiers entiers pulvérisés aux abords de la citadelle d'Alep. Des bâtiments historiques endommagés ou détruits, diapo suivante, notamment la grande mosquée d'Alep. Des éléments architecturaux et objets pillés de certains édifices. La citadelle d'Alep est de plus en plus touchée par le conflit. Le Centre du patrimoine mondial a organisé une réunion technique à l'UNESCO en juin 2015 avec une équipe multidisciplinaire pour aborder la question de la reconstruction d'Alep post-conflit. La réunion a formulé des recommandations opérationnelles qui ont été davantage enrichies et détaillées lors d'une seconde réunion internationale sur la sauvegarde du patrimoine syrien organisée à Berlin avec l'aide du gouvernement allemand en juin 2016. Mesdames et messieurs, pendant que je m'adresse à vous, le conflit continue de dévaster le centre historique d'Alep qui ressemble aujourd'hui à celui de Berlin ou de Varsovie à la fin de la Deuxième Guerre mondiale. La reconstruction d'Alep, ville vivante et jadis le poumon économique de la Syrie, sera, comme tous les centres urbains habités, et surtout pour son importance économique, une priorité à la fin du conflit, fin que nous espérons proche. Les actions futures à Alep nécessitent de travailler étroitement et en amont avec les acteurs humanitaires en premier lieu, pour rappeler l'intervention de la Turquie, ainsi qu'avec toutes les parties prenantes, les autorités responsables, la municipalité, les experts syriens et internationaux en Syrie et dans la diaspora, les communautés locales et donc la communauté internationale. Des mesures concrètes pour la préparation dès aujourd'hui de la phase post-conflit tant sur le plan de la planification stratégique que sur le plan opérationnel, permettront de poser les jalons pour définir les prochaines étapes. Ceci a été mentionné par le Liban ce matin en parlant des pays en conflit. Dès aujourd'hui, un travail de documentation et de planification a été lancé par l'UNESCO, par les acteurs locaux et par plusieurs entités scientifiques et techniques nationales et internationales. Notons que ces actions nécessiteront une coordination étroite de la part de l'UNESCO et des ressources considérables de la part de la communauté internationale, ressources qui n'existent pas aujourd'hui. Le projet de décision vous est soumis à la page 18 en anglais ainsi qu'en français. Madame la Présidente, l'ICOMOS souhaiterait prendre la parole, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you very much. Yes, representative of ICROM.
Thank you, Madam Chair. ICOMOS deplores the damage and destruction in Aleppo and recognises the importance of the response process initiated by UNESCO in 2015 and continued through the meeting on the protection of Syrian heritage held in Berlin in June 2016. ICOMOS acknowledges the need for urgent first aid measures for the cultural heritage of the city and its people, but highlights that long-term solutions require consultative discussions with the stakeholders and capacity building, so that the solutions are not just technical, but also holistic and sustainable. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Now I invite the members of the committee to take the floor. I see no request for the floor. No request for the floor. Now, representative of Portugal.
Just to tell you, Madam, that in order to react to your request for us to save time, I'll concentrate my intervention on all the sites in danger in Syria and not take them one by one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now invite you to adopt the draft decision 40.7a.16. I would like to ask our rapporteur if she has received any amendments on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We haven't got any amendments for this item. Thank you.
So, any comments? I see none. I declare decision 40.7a.16 adopted. Now I give the floor to Mrs. Nada El Hassan to present the next property.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Le rapport sur l'état de conservation de l'ancienne ville de Bosra en Syrie se trouve dans le document 7A-AD à la page 19 en anglais et en français. En 2015, Bosra avait subi des dommages importants suite à des affrontements militaires au sein du bien, comme vous pouvez le constater sur les images devant vous. Bon, sur ces images, on voit Bosra avant le conflit. En 2016, de nouveaux dégâts sont reportés, donc diapo suivante s'il vous plaît. Le dernier en date étant dans la cour située à l'ouest du théâtre romain. Là, vous voyez les images avant et après de la cour. Grâce à des accords conclus avec la société civile, les combats au sein du bien avaient été gelés et les services de la Direction générale des antiquités et des musées, basés à Bosra, ont pu procéder à une évaluation des dégâts sur les édifices et aussi de localiser l'emplacement des fouilles illégales, ainsi que d'entreprendre des travaux de consolidation d'urgence. Cependant, malheureusement, cet accord a été rompu fin 2015. Le projet de décision vous est soumis à la page 20 en anglais et en français. Et Madame la Présidente, avec votre permission, l'ICOMOS souhaiterait prendre la parole. Merci.
Thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. ICOMOS regrets the agreement to refrain from armed activities within the ancient city of Bosra has ceased and that clashes have resumed, resulting in substantial further damage. ICOMOS acknowledges the efforts of both the local communities and the Directorate General of Monuments Antiquities and emphasises the importance of continuing dialogue with and between local communities for the protection of Bosra. Until the security situation improves and access is available, there should only be limited first aid interventions and proactive preparation for more comprehensive conservation projects. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I now invite the committee members to express their comments. Yes, representative of Tunisia.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Malheureusement, on se rend compte au fur et à mesure que les dossiers des sites patrimoine mondial d'Irak et de Syrie nous sont présentés. Malheureusement, on sent qu'il y a des choses qui se répètent douloureusement. Évidemment, ce sont des blessures profondes qui vont rester vivantes pendant longtemps, hélas. J'aurais aimé, Madame la Présidente, exceptionnellement, qu'on ait consacré peut-être une session spéciale à ces sites au patrimoine mondial concernés par les conflits armés, car je ne peux pas analyser de la même manière un site qui est soumis au conflit armé en Syrie, en Irak, au Yémen ou en Libye, de la même manière qu'un autre site que le comité propose de le garder en péril, par exemple des sites d'Égypte, etc. Je pense que ce n'est pas la même méthode d'approche pour ceci et pour cela. Peut-être que j'aurais mieux souhaité que l'ensemble de ces sites ait été examiné de façon exceptionnellement ensemble pour qu'on puisse avoir la même méthode d'approche. Merci.
Thank you. I give the floor to Dr. Rösler.
Just to clarify, a special extraordinary session of the committee, or what are you proposing? An evening session, or it's not clear to us here on the podium? Thank you.
Madame Rösler, simplement, je regrette qu'on n'ait pas pensé au départ consacrer une session spéciale au site au patrimoine mondial en conflit armé, car ces sites sont traités de manière différente que d'autres sites qui sont simplement mal gérés ou mal conservés, etc., et qui sont comme l'Égypte ou ailleurs, et qui sont en temps de paix. Donc je pense que peut-être une session spéciale là-dessus aurait mieux ressorti les recommandations adéquates par rapport à une situation exceptionnelle. Merci.
Madam Rösler, you have the floor.
Thank you. You know, you have the option to make an extraordinary session on the committee. In the years, 25 years I have been there, this was only once the case on a specific World Heritage site. So you need to be very clear, or you want to have a specific evening event or so. But if you want to have within the time of the committee, we have this part of the session which is on 7A, which are sites on the danger list. Then we made this year a specific effort under item 7 to highlight heritage in times of conflict. So you had already a part of the debate under item 7. I understand your wish, but you need to be very specific what kind of session you would like to have. So we have also a number of side events on heritage under threat, including on Iraq, which is, I think, today at lunchtime. So you can continue these debates. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Rösler. Yes, representative of Lebanon.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Non, je pense que je vais essayer d'interpréter ce que dit ce que voulait dire le distingué délégué de Tunisie. Peut-être il aurait préféré que la discussion concernant les socs en danger soit organisée de façon à ce qu'on mette ensemble l'un après l'autre, non pas Afrique, puis Asie, puis pays arabes, mais pays en conflit, pays SOC des États en conflit, et puis après SOC des autres États. C'était juste une question, je pense, d'organisation de...
Thank you very much. I see no more requests for the floor. I now invite you to adopt the draft decision 40com 7A.17. I would like to ask our rapporteur if she has received any amendments on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are no amendments submitted for this decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you don't have any more comment, I declare decision 40com 7A.17 adopted. Now I would like to give the floor Mrs. Nada El Hassan to present the next property.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Le rapport sur l'état de conservation de l'ancienne ville de Damas en Syrie se trouve dans le document 7A à la page 21 en anglais et en français. Voici des images de Damas avant le conflit. Damas reste plus ou moins préservé avec certains dégâts que je vais vous énumérer. L'UNESCO a effectué une mission d'évaluation rapide en Syrie fin avril 2016, au cours de laquelle une visite de l'ancienne ville de Damas a eu lieu. En plus des dommages liés au conflit, les dommages collatéraux signalés en 2014 et en 2015 dans plusieurs édifices historiques de Damas, des dommages modérés sont à nouveau reportés à l'intérieur du bien et dans sa zone tampon, y compris sur le toit de la mosquée des Omeyyades. Donc, même si les dommages sont modérés, ils continuent à toucher des édifices importants et l'édifice central de la vieille ville que vous voyez ici, la mosquée des Omeyyades. Cependant, prochaine s'il vous plaît. Les dégâts les plus importants dans l'ancienne ville de Damas aujourd'hui sont dus à un incendie qui a ravagé un quartier entier fin avril 2016, le 23 avril exactement. C'est le quartier de Al-Asrouniya, quartier qui est essentiellement commercial où il y avait beaucoup de produits inflammables. Le feu a ravagé le quartier malgré des mesures préventives que le Centre du patrimoine mondial et les organisations consultatives avaient préconisées déjà en décembre 2013 à l'état partie. Ces photos ont été prises lors d'une mission du Centre du patrimoine mondial le lendemain de l'incendie. Les dommages constatés nécessiteront un projet de restauration et de reconstruction rapide afin de permettre aux usagers de ce quartier essentiellement commercial de reprendre leurs activités économiques. Diapo suivante, s'il vous plaît. En outre, l'État partie a effectué des travaux de restauration d'une mosaïque et d'une fresque médiévale dans la nef de la mosquée des Omeyyades. La mission a aussi pu visiter ces travaux, ainsi que d'autres travaux au sein de la citadelle de Damas. L'ancienne ville de Damas reste exposée à des risques et dommages collatéraux dus au combat et, on l'a vu, aux incendies. Le projet de décision vous est soumis à la page 23 en anglais et en français. Il propose des mesures de réduction des risques futurs, des modalités pour la mise en œuvre du projet de restauration et de reconstruction du quartier Al-Asrouniya ravagé par un incendie. Madame la Présidente, l'ICOMOS souhaiterait prendre la parole, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you. ICOMOS, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The ancient city of Damascus continues to be exposed to threats from armed conflict, with some damage having occurred to important historic buildings. While recognising the importance of repair and reconstruction of the Al-Asrouniya neighbourhood following the fire to the recovery of the cultural heritage values and the socio-economic life of the city, it is important to avoid further negative impact from overly hasty decision-making. The draft decision reiterates that any conservation or reconstruction plan should be limited to minimal interventions until the security situation allows for preparation of comprehensive conservation programs. The reactive monitoring mission, which is proposed as soon as the security situation allows, can enable the state of conservation of the property to be understood and a prioritised action plan for the recovery of the neighbourhood ravaged by fire to be prepared. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I now invite the committee members to express their comments. I see none. I now invite you to adopt the draft decision 40com 7A.18. I would like to ask our rapporteur if she has received any amendments on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are no amendments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No more comments. I see none. I declare decision 40com 7A.18 adopted. Now I would like to give the floor again to Mrs. Nada Al-Hassan to present the next property.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Le rapport sur l'état de conservation des villages antiques du nord de la Syrie se trouve dans le document 7A AD à la page 24 en anglais et en français. Le rapport dresse la liste des dommages infligés aux biens dans 4 des 8 parcs archéologiques, soulignant le fait que, bien que les parcs ne soient pas accessibles en raison du conflit armé, les communautés locales reportent des dommages sur l'ensemble des éléments de ce site en série. Diapo suivante, s'il vous plaît. En particulier, le site le plus emblématique des villages antiques, le site de Saint-Siméon, que vous voyez à l'écran. À votre gauche, il y a les dommages donc, qui montrent qui ont été suite à des combats dans Saint-Siméon. Il a subi des dégâts dus au conflit armé, sans doute en lien avec sa fonction stratégique dominant le plateau calcaire au nord de la Syrie. La partie où se situent les vestiges de la colonne de Saint-Siméon le Silite a notamment été endommagée, comme vous pouvez le voir. L'état partie signale des dommages considérables dus à l'utilisation d'engins lourds pour ouvrir des routes, creuser les sites, briser les pierres anciennes afin de les réutiliser pour de nouvelles constructions, ainsi que pour effectuer des fouilles illicites. L'installation des populations déplacées dans les bâtiments anciens se poursuit et entraîne des dommages. Cependant, soulignons qu'un dialogue a été établi avec les populations locales pour la protection, tant bien que mal, de ce bien en série. Le projet de décision vous est soumis à la page 26 en anglais et en français. Il relate la vive préoccupation du Comité du patrimoine mondial face à l'aggravation de l'état de conservation du bien. Madame la Présidente Likomos souhaiterait prendre la parole, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you very much. Representative of ICOMOS.
Thank you, Madam Chair. ICOMOS is disturbed by reports of damage to the ancient villages of northern Syria. Unfortunately, little can be done until the security situation improves and access to the property is available. However, the efforts of local communities should be highlighted and recognised, as they are playing a vital role in the conservation of the property, particularly protection from vandalism, illegal excavations and reuse of ancient stones for new buildings. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The floor is open for the committee members to present their observations, comments. I see no request for the floor. I now invite you to adopt the draft decision 40com 7A.19. I would like to ask our rapporteur if she has received any amendments on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are no amendments for this decision either. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I declare draft decision 40com7a.19 adopted. I would like to invite Mrs. Nada Al Hassan to present the next property. You have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Le rapport sur l'état de conservation du krach des chevaliers et Khalat Salah ad-Din en Syrie se trouve dans le document 7 à Ad, à la page 26 en anglais et 27 en français. Sur les images, on voit uniquement le krach des chevaliers. L'autre site en Syrie, Khalat Salah ad-Din, est indemne. Le rapport indique que la Direction générale des antiquités et des musées de Syrie continue de mener des études et des travaux de conservation et de consolidation d'urgence et a entrepris le tri des fragments de maçonnerie collectés sur le site. Diapo suivante, s'il vous plaît. Ces diapos montrent des travaux de consolidation d'urgence et exactement dans le sens préconisé par le Centre du patrimoine mondial et les organisations consultatives. En outre, la DGAM a lancé un travail de documentation du monument à l'aide de techniques de numérisation en 3D et de photogrammétrie. Le projet de décision vous est soumis à la page 28 en anglais et en français. Il recommande que les actions d'urgence en cours se limitent à la documentation et aux mesures d'urgence. Madame la Présidente, l'ICOMOS souhaiterait prendre la parole, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you, Representative ICOMOS.
Thank you, Madam Chair. ICOMOS supports safeguarding of the property through evaluating damage and urgent first aid intervention, but notes the importance of well-resolved conservation strategies before proceeding with more comprehensive conservation programs. The proposed joint World Heritage Centre ICOMOS and ICROM reactive monitoring mission later this year is strongly supported so that the state of conservation of the property can be understood and a prioritised action plan for recovery can be prepared in consultation with the local community and with the state party. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Now, the floor is open for your comments and observations on this report. I see no request for the floor. I now invite you to adopt the draft decision 40com7a.20. I would like to ask our rapporteur if she has received any amendments on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, there are no amendments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No more requests for the floor. I see none. I declare draft decision 40com7a.20 adopted. I invite Mrs. Nada Al Hassan again to present the next property.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Ceci est le dernier bien syrien soumis à votre examination. Le rapport sur l'état de conservation du site de Palmyre en Syrie se trouve dans le document 7 à Ad, à la page 28 en anglais et en français. Le site de Palmyre a été la plus grande et la plus spectaculaire victime de la destruction intentionnelle en 2015. Rappelons également que l'ancien directeur du site de Palmyre, l'archéologue Khaled al-Assad, a été sauvagement assassiné par les groupes armés en août 2015. En avril 2016, la directrice générale de l'UNESCO a décidé d'envoyer une mission d'évaluation rapide dirigée par Madame Rossler suite à une décision adoptée par le Conseil exécutif. La mission s'est rendue à Palmyre le 25 avril 2016 et a visité le site archéologique et le musée. Elle a pu confirmer la destruction et les dommages substantiels qui avaient été circulés dans les vidéos de propagande, en particulier au temple de Bel, de Baal Shamin et à l'arc triomphal qu'on voit dans l'image. Next slide, please. Donc, les images que vous voyez montrent le temple de Bel détruit. Pardon. Non, c'est pas ça. On va encore... voilà. Les images montrent l'explosion du temple de Bel, et à côté de l'explosion, on voit la cella du temple de Bel aujourd'hui, c'est-à-dire pulvérisée, comparée à l'image sur l'autre écran. Toutefois, il n'a pas été possible d'accéder aux nécropoles pour évaluer la destruction et le pillage des tours et des tombeaux funéraires, destruction qui a été repérée sur les images satellites. Image suivante, s'il vous plaît. Vous voyez à l'écran le pillage des bustes palmyréniens qui sont très connus dans l'histoire de l'art et qui sont particuliers du site de Palmyre, qui ornent le sarcophage d'une tombe. Beaucoup de ces bustes ont été vandalisés ou volés, mais la direction des Antiquités a pu en sauver un grand nombre, et nous avons pu le constater lors de notre mission à Palmyre et à Damas. Les dommages causés à la citadelle Mamlouk, communément appelée château de Fakhreddin el-Mahani, n'ont pas pu être constatés autrement qu'avec des photos, car l'édifice est aujourd'hui inaccessible. La mission a constaté que les attributs du bien restant offrent encore un excellent témoignage du tracé urbain de Palmyre et de sa relation avec les paysages de désert et d'oasis alentour. Vous voyez aussi à l'écran les images du musée qui a été vidé 2 jours ou même quelques heures avant les combats, avec 2 personnes qui ont été touchées. Il a été vidé, mais toutes les œuvres qui sont restées, qui proviennent du site, ont été vandalisées. Avec l'appui d'une équipe de professionnels, la Direction générale des Antiquités et des Musées, la DGAM donc, a entrepris une documentation photographique détaillée du site en utilisant une technologie de pointe et une photogrammétrie 3D pour le temple de Bel. Il y avait également lors de notre visite des experts polonais qui étaient déjà en train d'assister la Syrie à la conservation des œuvres du musée et du lion de Halat. L'évaluation et la documentation que poursuit la DGM est louable et indispensable. La mission a proposé des actions à court, moyen et long terme pour le bien et son musée, tout en notant l'urgence du financement pour accomplir cette tâche. Le projet de décision qui vous est soumis à la page 30 en anglais et 31 en français préconise une approche prudente, graduelle, focalisée sur l'évaluation des dégâts et les mesures de consolidation et de protection d'urgence. Elle rappelle à la contribution financière de la communauté internationale en faveur de Palmyre. Madame la Présidente, l'ICOMOS souhaiterait prendre la parole, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you very much. Representative of ICOMOS.
Thank you, Madam Chair. ICOMOS deplores the deliberate targeting of major monuments which has occurred at Palmyra, with damage and destruction of major monuments during 2015. Noting that access to the property is now available with restrictions, and the report from the Rapid Assessment Mission of UNESCO, ICOMOS strongly supports the approach that immediate actions are limited to damage assessment documentation and emergency measures, and that future plans for the property be prepared by the Directorate General of Antiquities and Monuments in close cooperation with the international scientific community, the World Heritage Centre and the advisory bodies, through an inclusive and participatory approach. Despite pressure to act quickly to repair the damage, the nature of the property and its iconic status impose an obligation for best practice conservation based on analysis and fieldwork, and particularly broad consultation among local and national stakeholders and involvement of the international community, as well as careful consideration of the conditions on the ground. ICOMOS acknowledges the sacrifice of Khalal al-Hassad and others who have been killed while seeking to protect Syria's cultural heritage. Madam Chair and delegates, I would particularly like to inform you that ICOMOS Italy has dedicated the published volume of the proceedings of the 2015 General Assembly of ICOMOS held in Florence in memory of Khalal al-Hassad. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I now invite the committee members to express their comments. Yes, representative of Portugal, you have the floor, Ambassador.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je remercie le Centre du patrimoine pour son rapport. Madame la Présidente, la réhabilitation de Palmyre est aussi un signe d'espoir et de détermination de notre part après des années de conflit qui continuent malheureusement à faire des milliers de morts, de blessés, de réfugiés et de personnes déplacées, ainsi qu'à meurtrir un patrimoine culturel extraordinairement riche et qui appartient à toute l'humanité. Notre engagement avec Palmyre est ainsi et aussi notre façon de dire non. Non à la violence, non aux violations des droits de l'homme, non à la destruction criminelle, non au meurtre, non à la brutale répression de tout un peuple. Madame la Présidente, la réunion d'experts qui s'est tenue à Berlin début juin fut une étape importante dans ce processus. Je profite pour remercier les autorités allemandes et tout particulièrement Madame la ministre Dr Maria Böhmer pour son engagement permanent avec les sujets qui nous sont si chers. Nous sommes heureux qu'un expert portugais ait également participé à cette réunion de Berlin qui réunit la meilleure expertise mondiale en ces matières. Cette réunion a approuvé des recommandations importantes dont il nous faudra tenir compte dans le cadre d'une approche cohérente de notre travail. Une approche qui doit être également prudente et responsable de manière à ce que l'UNESCO puisse agir à la hauteur de ses responsabilités, libre de toute pression. Dans ce sens, il faudra trouver un juste milieu entre l'urgence des travaux et les conditions objectives pour les faire. Un compromis qui soulignera notre volonté commune de contribuer à la construction de la paix, aussi par le biais de la protection du patrimoine mondial. Je peux vous assurer, Madame la Présidente, que le Portugal continuera pleinement engagé sur cette voie et je vous remercie.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. I see no more requests for the floor. Representative of Tunisia, you have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Je vais me répéter pour dire que je déplore également la destruction de ce patrimoine icône, comme cela a été dit par Madame la représentante du Centre du patrimoine mondial. J'aimerais simplement ici insister sur le fait qu'il est absolument important de bien réfléchir à la manière et à la méthode de restaurer ce qui a été détruit, peut-être avant d'aller vite, parce qu'aller vite, c'est aller trop vite. Et on risque de peut-être ne pas appliquer les règles et les normes qui sont généralement suivies dans le cas de ces restaurations. Par conséquent, la documentation, le travail d'archives, de relevé est absolument nécessaire et je prie l'État partie d'œuvrer avec le Centre du patrimoine mondial ainsi que les organisations consultatives pour prendre le temps qu'il faut, car détruire c'est facile, reconstruire n'est pas facile, d'autant plus qu'il s'agit du patrimoine mondial. Par conséquent, je voudrais insister sur ce que vous-même avez insisté, l'inquiétude de vouloir agir vite et donc demander de façon expresse et pressante à l'État partie de vraiment prendre le temps qu'il faut pour que la restauration soit faite dans les règles de l'art. Merci.
Thank you very much. Representative of Philippines.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Philippines takes note of the state of conservation reports and express our utmost concern over the damage and threats facing the properties in Syria due to the ongoing conflict situation in the country. We express our deep condolences over the tragic loss of life due to the conflict. We commend heritage professionals in Syria and local communities who have made sustained efforts to protect cultural heritage and to monitor it closely. We also commend the World Heritage Center and the advisory bodies for their continued support to the State Party in the identification of the necessary corrective measures and in the development of the desired states of conservation for the removal of the properties from the list of World Heritage in danger as soon as the situation allows. We note that joint World Heritage Center, ICROM, ICOMOS missions will be carried out to accessible properties under the United Nations security and safety rules. Furthermore, it is recommended that systematic documentation of all damage incurred at the World Heritage properties be duly pursued whenever the situation allows. As embodied in United Nations Security Council Resolution 1299 and UNESCO's Unite for Heritage campaign, we hope for a coordinated approach and call on the international community to support safeguarding of the valuable cultural heritage of Syria. We also support clustering of consideration of World Heritage properties in situations of armed conflict as proposed by the distinguished delegates of Tunisia and Lebanon. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any more comments from the member countries, members of the committee? I see none. So I would like to give the floor to the representative of France. You have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente. Sur ce sujet, et pas seulement d'ailleurs spécifiquement sur le point 21, site de Palmyre, mais sur l'ensemble des sites syriens, la délégation française observateur de notre comité souhaiterait faire les commentaires suivants. D'abord, évidemment, la situation en Syrie sur l'ensemble du territoire est tragique et pour nous tous une vraie souffrance. Ensuite, il ne faut pas négliger la responsabilité des organisations terroristes, à commencer par Daesh, dans ces destructions. Il ne faut pas oublier non plus la responsabilité première du régime de Damas, du régime syrien, dans la destruction du patrimoine de son pays. Aussi, nous voudrions simplement alerter l'UNESCO et le Centre du patrimoine mondial pour que les missions envoyées et les travaux poursuivis ne soient pas instrumentalisés par le régime syrien de Damas, parce que, aussi bien à Palmyre qu'ailleurs, les destructions se poursuivent. Je voudrais également dire la mobilisation de la France pour la protection du patrimoine en danger, dans la ligne de ce qu'a dit le représentant de la Tunisie, que le président de la République française a demandé au président du Louvre un rapport qui devrait déboucher sur une conférence internationale en fin d'année à Abu Dhabi. Nous soutenons les archéologues et les chercheurs syriens et irakiens via des bourses et des formations et nous accordons un appui financier à la numérisation des archives des missions archéologiques syriennes. Donc, il faut agir, mais il faut être vigilant pour ce qui concerne les contacts avec les autorités de Damas. J'ajouterai que l'initiative de l'UNESCO, Unite for Heritage, Unis pour le patrimoine, est évidemment une très belle formule et initiative pour avancer sur ce sujet très sensible. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to the representative of Japan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have a few pieces of information to share here. The Japan Consortium for International Cooperation in Cultural Heritage is active in researching and discussing ways to help conflict areas where access is not possible to preserve their cultural heritage. In Palmyra, a group of Japanese archaeologists took a very precise 3D scan picture of the Temple of Bel in 2010, 5 years before the destruction. Here, the importance of preparing a thorough and exhaustive inventory in time of peace could be stressed as a best practice. We believe that this 3D data thus stored could be fundamental in the future restoration and help guide international and national consultation on the development of recovery plans and optimal approaches to the restoration. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Madame Rösler.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would like to just answer the question from Tunisia. I can assure you that we are first doing really the first damage assessment, but there are issues of stabilization, especially in the museum, which we saw with our own eyes. I can assure you that it was one of the most difficult missions we have done so far because it was the highest level of security phase 6. I would like in this regard to thank all the delegations who offered assistance, but at this moment everything needs to be evaluated whether we can actually send the experts on the ground on a case-by-case basis whenever this is a formal United Nations mission under UNESCO. I would also like to thank for all the assistance with previous scanning and documentation. As you all know, we have a project in Beirut with a database, so it needs to be integrated there, and with this maybe Mrs. Al-Hassan and ICOMOS have further comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madame Rösler. I now give the floor to Mrs. Elbaz.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Les interventions des distingués délégués vont dans le sens des recommandations proposées dans la décision, notamment en termes de méthodologie, d'approche, de prudence, de documentation systématique et de collaboration internationale pour la mise en œuvre des résolutions du Conseil de sécurité en faveur du patrimoine syrien. Je voudrais signaler qu'en Syrie, très particulièrement en Syrie, le nombre de missions archéologiques et d'initiatives techniques et scientifiques est tellement important, car c'est un pays qui, depuis 100 ans, accueillait des missions archéologiques. Il y a eu beaucoup d'études de beaucoup de pays du monde et le challenge principal pour nous, UNESCO actuellement, est d'effectuer une coordination entre tout ce qui existe afin que les systèmes d'archives et de documentation soient harmonisés, afin qu'il y ait un échange entre les professionnels et tous les acteurs donc, qui sont en train de mettre en œuvre des projets de documentation, d'archivage, de documentation, enfin de toutes sortes d'initiatives aussi de préparation des étapes futures. Donc j'en appelle à vous pour travailler avec l'UNESCO afin que cette coordination soit possible, car si on ne coordonne pas notre travail partout d'ailleurs, mais surtout sur ce site très complexe, il sera très très difficile d'aller de l'avant selon des méthodes scientifiques que vous avez requises. Merci.
Thank you very much, representative of ICOMOS.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to briefly echo some of the points made by the Honourable Delegate, that while there is a great desire in terms of saying no to the devastation and the process that has invoked it, and providing an outward and visible sign through physical reconstruction, in fact the process that has been recommended and supported by the delegates of not being over hasty, of being cohesive and coherent and prudent is strongly supported by the advisory bodies. The advisory bodies, particularly ICOMOS and ICROM, stand ready to assist and have been assisting, because even though access on site is difficult, as the World Heritage Centre has pointed out, there is much that can be done off-site by way of preparation, and this is a very good direction for the efforts and support of the international community. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any comments from the committee members? I see none. I now invite you to adopt the draft decision 40Com 7A.21. I would like to ask Madam Rapporteur if she has received any amendments on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have no amendments. Thank you.
Then I now declare decision 40Com 7A.21 adopted. Mrs. Nada Al-Hassan, you have the floor to present the next property.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. No slides for now, please. You can put the last Syrian slide if you want. Merci. Nous abordons actuellement tout de suite la décision générale sur les biens du patrimoine mondial de la Syrie. Le rapport relatif à l'ensemble des biens syriens se trouve à la page 31 en anglais et 32 en français. La décision générale pour tous les biens syriens vous est soumise à la page 34 en anglais et 35 en français. Comme mentionné plus tôt, depuis 2011, la Syrie vit un conflit dévastateur pour sa population et pour son patrimoine. L'État partie a fait état des dommages subis par les sites inscrits sur la liste indicative, des sites très importants qui ne sont pas encore sur la liste du patrimoine mondial: Ebla, Doura Oropos, Mari, Apamé, Maloula, Raqqa Rafika, où les dommages relatifs à l'occupation militaire, aux fouilles illégales très généralisées, surtout à Apamé et à Doura Oropos, au vandalisme et aux dommages dus au combat. L'UNESCO, comme le signalait Monsieur l'ambassadeur du Portugal, a organisé en début du mois de juin 2016 la deuxième réunion internationale pour la sauvegarde d'urgence du patrimoine culturel de la Syrie à Berlin, avec l'appui du gouvernement allemand. La réunion a rassemblé toutes les parties prenantes afin d'identifier les lacunes dans la sauvegarde, donc dans nos projets actuels pour la sauvegarde du patrimoine bâti, mobilier et immatériel. Donc là, je voudrais signaler que l'UNESCO pour les conflits œuvre de plus en plus de manière intégrée sur tous les types du patrimoine. Donc cette réunion à Berlin servait également à coordonner les efforts en cours pour la documentation au niveau national et international, pour l'évaluation des risques, l'identification des besoins en termes de gouvernance, de documentation et de renforcement des capacités, ainsi que la définition des étapes futures pour la période post-conflit. En outre, l'UNESCO continue la mise en œuvre du projet de sauvegarde d'urgence du patrimoine syrien, financé par l'Union européenne et cofinancé par l'Autriche et le gouvernement allemand, à partir de notre bureau de Beyrouth au Liban. Cependant, il est important de signaler à l'attention des distingués membres du Comité du patrimoine mondial qu'au vu de la catastrophe dont nous sommes témoins en Syrie, il est crucial de passer d'un projet pilote actuellement en cours à une échelle d'intervention bien plus importante, capable d'affronter l'entreprise colossale qui nous incombe. Le projet de décision déplore la perte de vies humaines, la dégradation des conditions humanitaires et la destruction du patrimoine syrien et exprime sa profonde inquiétude face aux menaces qui pèsent sur le patrimoine culturel en Syrie à cause du conflit armé. Il encourage la direction des antiquités et les professionnels à poursuivre leurs efforts dans la sauvegarde du patrimoine syrien, effort très louable en ces temps difficiles. Soulignons également l'appel lancé à la communauté internationale pour soutenir la sauvegarde du patrimoine syrien grâce à des fonds réservés. Madame la Présidente, l'ICOMOS souhaiterait prendre la parole, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you very much. representative of ICOMOS.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Out of all the reports on the Syrian properties that have been discussed, much has been said on the impact of the military activities that have led to devastating damage and destruction, the full extent of which is yet to be documented. But what ICOMOS would like to highlight are some of the positives that have also emerged and the moves made to begin to look forward. To start with, there is the extraordinary commitment of the Directorate of Antiquities and Museums and its professional staff, which have provided regular reports to the World Heritage Centre. There has also been invaluable work undertaken by local communities in helping to document properties and carry out essential monitoring work. The Berlin expert meeting has set out the preliminaries necessary to begin to consider a recovery strategy. This needs to be built on as soon as the situation improves through the proposed joint World Heritage Centre Advisory Body Reactive Monitoring Mission. That mission could also be the opportunity to bring together all parties to consider immediate proposals for minimal intervention and systematic documentation, and also prioritise longer-term plans for part of an overall recovery strategy that might eventually lead to the drafting of a desired state of conservation for all the properties. But looking ahead is beginning to highlight the magnitude of the challenges to be addressed. How can national priorities and local needs both be met? How can results be achieved that go beyond stabilizing monuments to rebuild devastated cities, towns and villages, and to revive social and economic dynamism? How can recovery reinforce local distinctiveness as well as respecting outstanding universal value? And how can rebuilding offer benefits and improvements to local communities? Sadly, there are many examples around the world where recovery has not had positive results. The key question must be how World Heritage status might act as a catalyst to ensure that positive outcomes can be achieved in social, economic, as well as cultural terms. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to the representative of Lebanon.
شكرا حضرة الرئيسة. الذي شاهدناه حتى الآن بخصوص سوريا هو غيض من فيض. لقد قامت منظمة اليونسكو ومركز التراث العالمي بعمل جبار في سوريا بالرغم من ضآلة الإمكانيات وصعوبة الأوضاع الأمنية حفاظا ودفاعا عن التراث السوري. كما الكل يعلم فإن لبنان ومعه دول الجوار كتركيا والأردن يتحمل عبئا كبيرا ناتجا عن مشكلة النزوح الكثيف، ونحن فخورون بالمساعدة على تخفيف آلام ومعاناة الإخوان السوريين. وهنا أذكر أن اليونسكو أنشأت مركزا متخصصا بالتراث السوري في المكتب الإقليمي للتربية في العالم العربي في بيروت، وقد يكون من المفيد تعزيز هذا المركز وقد تكلمت عنه السيدة الحسن. وأخيرا أؤكد أن اليونسكو تقوم بالواجب على أكمل وجه في مقاربة المأساة السورية وتقدم مثالا يحتذى به في منظومة الأمم المتحدة. وشكرا.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Representative of Turkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Turkey is deeply concerned about the 6 World Heritage Sites in Syria, which are all reflecting universal values and attributes as a part of the world collective memory. The damage and looting of the World Heritage Site in Syria, which have been preserved almost for millennia, are causing irreplaceable losses. Museums and their collections are also under the same threat, and they are also part of this world collective memory. We should bear in mind that any conservation intervention as a recovery process should be conducted carefully, as conservation practices in post-conflict situations is a crucial holistic approach. Turkey is confident with UNESCO experience on dealing with conflict and post-conflict situations. In this regard, UNESCO mission to Palmyra, headed by Director Rösler, was an important initiative to start the recovery process. We applaud Director Rösler and UNESCO team for taking this courageous initiative, which we hope will be the turning point in regaining the loss of our collective memory. Turkey will continue to provide technical support for safeguarding the World Heritage Sites, as well as museums and their collections in Syria. We will also cooperate in the fight against the illicit trafficking of cultural heritage coming from Syria as per the UN Security Council Resolution 2199. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the representative of Portugal.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le texte, la décision nous convient. Elle reflète d'une façon très réaliste la tragédie syrienne. Je souscris entièrement l'intervention de mon collègue du Liban en ce qui touche le travail de l'UNESCO, le travail remarquable de l'UNESCO. Et je remercie aussi et j'appuie l'intervention d'ICOMOS et des suggestions sur une feuille de route consistante et cohérente pour notre travail en Syrie à l'avenir. Parce que, Madame la Présidente, un an s'est découlé depuis notre dernière réunion à Bonn et les défis auxquels nous essayons alors de répondre font encore malheureusement partie de notre réalité. Et tant que la paix ne reviendra pas en Syrie, tant que les Syriens ne pourront pas décider par eux-mêmes démocratiquement de leur avenir, nous resterons confrontés à ces problèmes. Ce n'est pas une perspective très encourageante ou réjouissante, mais il faut le reconnaître tant la paix semble illusoire. Mais permettez-moi un commentaire d'un type plus général. Les attaques délibérées contre le patrimoine culturel et la diversité culturelle dans les situations de conflit constituent un nouveau défi en termes quantitatifs et qualitatifs. Et en ce contexte, nous soutenons les efforts pour une intégration de la protection de la culture dans l'action humanitaire, les stratégies de sécurité et le processus de construction de la paix. Et je profite pour saluer l'action de l'UNESCO en ce domaine dans le cadre de la stratégie que nous avons adoptée lors de la 38e conférence générale. L'adoption de la résolution 2199 par le Conseil de sécurité en février 2015 avait certes déjà marqué un tournant dans l'action de l'UNESCO et avait reconnu pour la première fois le lien étroit entre culture et sécurité globale. La lutte contre le pillage, la destruction et le trafic du patrimoine culturel fut ainsi reconnue comme une dimension qui doit également être prise en compte dans les efforts de paix. Il faut continuer à œuvrer en ce sens et au renforcement du rôle du patrimoine culturel au cœur d'un monde qui sera plus pacifique et plus stable. Madame la Présidente, et je vais conclure là-dessus, le Portugal soutient sans réserve tous les efforts politiques qui visent à ramener la paix et les dialogues en Syrie afin de mettre fin à une catastrophe que, comme je l'ai déjà dit, a déjà trop duré et de permettre la reconstruction du pays, le retour des réfugiés et des déplacés et l'édification d'une société basée sur le respect des libertés individuelles, de la justice et des droits humains. Nous appuyons à cet égard les efforts du représentant spécial du secrétaire général des Nations Unies, Staffan de Mistura, et nous saluons sa détermination. Soyez assurés, Madame la Présidente, que le Portugal soutient et continuera à soutenir avec détermination tout ce qui permettra à l'UNESCO et à ses comités de renforcer leur engagement pour la paix et la sauvegarde du patrimoine culturel de l'humanité. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. Representative of Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to recall the recent decisions of the 199th session of the Executive Board on the UNESCO's role in safeguarding the heritage in Syria, and the Bonn Declaration, which was adopted last session, and the Istanbul Declaration, which was adopted yesterday, calling on all to unite for heritage. With such limited access to the heritage,
It is difficult to gauge the exact status of damage. However, we would like to commend the efforts of the experts and professionals to safeguard the heritage of Syria. We extend our full support in preventing the illegal trafficking of heritage and for the restoring the damage afflicted to these sites from armed conflicts. The role of UNESCO to continuously build up the capacity of the site managers through the training sessions must be commended. We hope that other options become available through the meeting scheduled for October 2016. Also, we believe the establishment of a heritage database will be an indispensable resource for planning and executing rescue and restoration projects. We applaud all efforts put into this accumulation of these data. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No more requests from the member countries. I would like to give the floor to the representative of France.
Merci Madame la Présidente et merci aux membres du comité de permettre à la délégation d'observateurs français de reprendre la parole une deuxième fois. C'est au sujet de la décision générale et en particulier du point 10 de la décision générale. Dans la ligne de ce que j'ai développé tout à l'heure, nous aurions eu, si nous étions membres du comité, une recommandation de modification à pousser, parce que autant il nous semble qu'il faut remercier, féliciter, soutenir les populations syriennes qui, dans un environnement tragique et soumis à des bombardements de leur régime, continuent à sauver les éléments du patrimoine, autant je trouve que remercier également les autorités publiques syriennes est tout à fait abusif, en ce sens que l'arbre ne doit pas cacher la forêt et Palmyre ne doit pas cacher l'ensemble de tous les sites syriens qui sont l'objet de destruction systématique de la part des autorités syriennes de Damas par le biais de bombardements et de ruptures de trêve. Donc il faut qu'il soit clair, et c'est comme cela que la délégation française le comprend, que ce point 10 de notre décision générale est un hommage à la résistance, au courage et de la population syrienne et à tout ce qu'elle fait pour sauver son patrimoine, mais certainement pas un encouragement à nouer des contacts avec les autorités qui la martyrisent. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. I see no more requests for the floor, so we can move to the adoption of the General Draft Decision 40.7a.22. I would like to ask our rapporteur if she has received any amendments on the draft decision proposed from the member countries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There has been no amendment submitted by any of the committee members. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see no objection, so I declare decision 40.7a.22 adopted. Ladies and gentlemen, before adjourning this morning session, I would like to give the floor to the Secretariat for some announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In a second, you will see the side events for lunchtime today on the screens in French and English. And also, I have also been asked to make a couple of additional announcements. It's just to flag that there is a change in the room originally planned for the side event of WWF. This will now be held in room Hamidieh, and this is the room you see also on the screens. Also, the exhibition Hattusha will start tomorrow instead of today. The EU consultative meeting will take place in the room Emirgan 2 from 1 to 3. Now, I'm not sure this is the right timing, but you certainly know better, the members of the EU group, what is the timing. A very important announcement. The budget group, the venue has been changed. This will now take place in the Kamlika room from 2 to 3, and the Kamlika room is the room where the bureau takes place every morning. It's just next door from the plenary. The budget group will start at 2 o'clock. Thank you very much. Enjoy your lunch.
Thank you. I adjourn the meeting. We will resume at 3 p.m. sharp.